Hello everyone, welcome back to Tarot. Thank you so much for always following and supporting this channel. The very moment you find yourself watching this video is exactly the right time for you to receive this message. On this channel, I always bring you messages about what is about to unfold in your life. When you open your heart and place your trust in positive possibilities, you are also connecting with a parallel realm, a world where your wishes have already become reality. Today, through this reading, I want to help you unlock glimpses of the future, supporting you on your journey to embrace love and manifest the dreams that live within your heart. The theme of today's reading is what is happening inside their heart. I have prepared 3 cards corresponding to Pile 1, Pile 2, and Pile 3. Take a moment to listen to your intuition and choose the card that calls out to you the most, the one that draws you in with its energy, and then click on the timestamp in the description box to go directly to your chosen reading. Now, let us begin this session with those of you who have already made your selection. Hello to those of you who chose Pile 1. Thank you for waiting, and now I will begin the reading for those who have selected this pile. My wish is that this reading brings you healing, fresh insights, and moments filled with love and tenderness. The theme we are focusing on today is what is happening inside their heart. As I take in the overall energy of the spread, the most prominent feeling that comes through is that within this person's heart at the present moment, there is a strong sense of confusion, uncertainty, and a lack of decisiveness. There are many matters in which they have not been able to reach a firm conclusion, and at times this hesitation causes them to move slowly or even miss opportunities altogether. I also sense that they are deeply concerned with how others perceive them, almost as if every action they take must be filtered through the question of what others will think. This constant weighing of external opinions creates an inner world that lacks conviction, where very few things feel truly secure or absolutely trustworthy to them. Even a clear sense of direction, a path they can follow with determination and certainty, seems absent or not yet recognized by them at this stage. What I feel most strongly is a state of vagueness, as though their heart is wandering in a fog of uncertainty, caught in a maze of choices without knowing which way to turn. There is this restless energy, as if they are fumbling in the dark, unsure of which direction to take, unsure of what would be right, and this in itself creates a mist that clouds their inner world. It feels like a quiet sigh rising from deep within their heart, a yearning for clarity, for something certain, yet an inability to find the answers on their own. When I look at this spread, what strikes me immediately is that both cards representing you and the other person are placed in the same column, aligned in the same vertical line. This positioning speaks volumes, for it suggests that in their mind, you are not distant at all. On an emotional level as well, there is a sense that the two of you stand quite close to one another, not separate, not disconnected. And yet, despite this closeness, the 2 cards are turned away, facing in opposite directions. This creates a vivid and telling image. The physical or emotional distance between you may not be vast, but still there lingers the feeling of being near, yet somehow far. The bond of nearness is there. It has not vanished, but it is veiled, covered over by an invisible barrier, something subtle yet undeniably present. This sensation can arise from many different causes. For some of you, it may point toward a certain obstacle within the relationship. I am not saying this is true for everyone, but in many cases, when there are barriers or walls between 2 people, even if in their heart they see you as someone deeply important, someone they hold close, they are still unable to draw near in the way they long for. And that tension makes the sense of distance sharper, even though the hearts still lean toward each other. For others, this feeling of nearness and separation may simply reflect the reality of physical distance or external circumstances. Perhaps the 2 of you live far apart, unable to meet often, or perhaps arranging to be together poses real difficulties. When opportunities to see each other are limited, the feeling of being close yet unable to touch gradually takes shape. And this is what creates, within their heart, that paradoxical experience of you being right before their eyes and yet, at the very same time, existing in a place that feels so very far away. This is very much like the following. I believe all of us, at some point, have either heard of or personally experienced a situation quite similar. Imagine, for instance, that you have feelings for someone you work with, someone in an environment where most of the colleagues around are women, or perhaps simply a place where you and this person frequently cross paths. The 2 of you are close, you talk often, and yet most of your encounters, most of your interactions, happen within a shared group of friends, maybe 5 or 6 people together. And within that group setting, you and this person stand out as the pair who shine the brightest. You are the ones who naturally gravitate toward one another, who always find yourselves drawn into conversation together more than with anyone else. The physical and emotional space between you noticeably shorter than with the other members. It could even be said that the two of you are the closest, the most connected pair within the group. And yet, despite such nearness, despite the warmth and familiarity, the relationship never quite takes that next step into love. There is this unspoken sense, almost as though both hearts are aware of the feelings, both recognize the resonance between them, both sense that quiet stirring of mutual affection, but still, neither has moved forward into meeting outside that shared circle, into creating moments of just the two of you alone together. It remains suspended in the realm of closeness within the group, unable to cross that invisible threshold into something deeper. That is precisely the essence of this near yet far state I am describing, the experience of knowing, beyond doubt, that you hold an important place in their heart, feeling the intimacy and the bond, and yet simultaneously confronting a subtle, unseen distance that keeps the love from flowing into its natural progression. It is as if the connection is undeniable, but still contained, unable to break free into the fullness it longs to become. I want to emphasize that this is merely an illustrative example to help you visualize, not to say that your relationship with this person is necessarily unfolding within a workplace or a circle of friends like the one I described. But the state of being close and yet still far, which I sense so strongly in their energy, is very much akin to that image. Two people who share a connection, who carry feelings for one another, and yet, for some reason, it is not easy for them to become a couple. It could be due to circumstances, external conditions, or certain unspoken constraints, factors that, even with the presence of genuine emotions, still prevent the bond from deepening into something more. Their representative card is the Anchor, a symbol of being held in place, of stability, of a situation remaining fixed or unchanging. At this current moment, it appears that they are in a state where movement is either impossible or extremely difficult, a state in which taking action feels constrained. This is the message that comes through with striking clarity, emphasized so strongly by the spread. They are anchored, caught in a place of stillness, unable to shift forward, as though bound to a condition that keeps them from making the choices their heart may long to make. When I speak of their inability to act, what immediately comes to mind is the very image of an anchor itself. A ship casts its anchor into the sea to hold itself in place, to keep steady against the push of waves and the pull of the wind. Anyone who has spent time at sea will know that once the anchor has been lowered, the ship comes to a halt. In contrast, the moment the anchor is lifted, the vessel is at the mercy of the current. It may drift far away. It may be carried into unknown waters, into places uncharted. The anchor, therefore, holds the meaning of fastening, of fixing something so that it cannot move, of creating stillness. In the Lenormand system, the anchor can sometimes be a positive sign, representing stability, reliability, or endurance. Yet in this reading, the anchor reveals something very different. It is the image of enforced stillness, a halt not born of desire, but of compulsion, of being held down against one's will. I feel very clearly that this person does not truly wish to remain where they are. Looking at the entirety of the spread, their energy carries the pull of forward movement, the longing for change, the urge to step ahead into something new. And yet, something heavy and inescapable like an anchor keeps them bound. It could be invisible restraints, immense pressures from circumstance, or a situation so binding that it forces them to remain unmoving, unable to take even a single step forward. At times, this anchor is not only a tether that holds them down, but also a weight that presses upon them, sapping their flexibility, draining away their freedom to act. For some, this anchor manifests as their role, their position, or the responsibilities they carry, obligations that demand they stay in place, even though deep within, their heart longs to move, to reach, to go further. This is something the spread makes abundantly clear, and because the circle of energy has already closed at this point, I cannot delve any further into them along this direction. So now, I will turn to the card that represents you. In this reading, your card has fallen into the House of the Lily. The lily itself carries within it two layers of meaning that are vastly different, even to the point of being completely opposite. On one hand, it symbolizes pure, gentle love, the kind of affection nurtured by respect, tenderness, and the wish for a lasting bond. It is love in its most serene, sacred form, where connection is built on sincerity and the desire for continuity. On the other hand, The lily can also embody the realm of physical attraction, the pull of passion, that primal force of desire where the magnetism extends beyond emotional intimacy into the depths of physical longing and unspoken cravings. When the lily appears, which way it leans, toward purity and gentleness or toward sensuality and passion, must always be read within the context of the spread, for these two seemingly opposing meanings coexist side by side. In today's reading, however, your lily has fallen into the house of the mice. And in the Lenormand, when the lily lands in the position of the mice, it often speaks of depletion, of gradual loss, of something being worn away or drained over time. This paints a picture that deep within, the other person holds a strong awareness, an acute sensitivity of not wanting to lose you. It stirs a quiet fear in them, a fear that something might slowly erode the bond between you, or that you might slip away, leaving their life. This anxiety may not be something they ever voice aloud, but it moves like an undercurrent, always present beneath the surface of their heart, shaping their thoughts and emotions in ways they themselves may not even fully recognize. As I look further, I see that this card of the mice connects directly to the card of the clouds. The clouds often symbolize ambiguity, confusion, and the presence of mist that obscures vision, making it impossible to see the path ahead with clarity. It signals a situation where everything remains uncertain, unsettled, or where the outcome cannot yet be foretold. This indicates that even though they carry a deep fear of losing you, whenever they try to envision the future, they cannot form a clear or stable picture of what lies ahead. If the two of you are in a romantic relationship, this message could be pointing to the reality that even as you continue together, they still cannot find a definitive direction forward. They may struggle to make solid plans or to imagine how this bond will evolve over time. In some cases, this even suggests difficulty in progressing to deeper commitments, such as marriage. The reasons for this vary depending on the individual. For some, it may be their position in life, societal expectations, or responsibilities they currently shoulder that prevent them from easily taking the next step. For others, it could be tied to their work and career, which may lack stability, with income uncertain, leaving them unable to see a solution. Until these factors are resolved, they feel that steering the relationship toward a secure, guaranteed future is something incredibly difficult, perhaps even impossible, for them at this point in time. Moreover, if your person happens to be someone who works in a public field, or someone with influence, admired and well known, then the spread can also manifest in this way. In such a case, while they desire to have you, to hold you close, at the same time they are acutely aware that should they take one step further, their position, their reputation, or even the presence of fans and the wider community around them would become factors that make the development of this relationship uncertain. This awareness clouds their vision of the future, leaving the path of your connection indistinct, difficult to foresee with any sense of certainty. As I follow the chain of connections within the spread, the clouds, which already signify confusion, obscurity, and the inability to discern a clear direction, lead directly into the bouquet. The bouquet, by its nature, is a symbol of joy, of blessings, of beautiful gifts, of recognition and appreciation from the outside world. And yet here, its message reveals something contrary. Despite the feelings that are present, despite their unwillingness to let you go, reaching that state of being openly blessed, celebrated, or fully acknowledged seems to remain out of reach. In other words, even if love between you progresses, they still cannot bring this relationship to a place where it is embraced, accepted, or supported wholeheartedly by the people around them. It is as though the love exists, vibrant and alive, but remains in a space where full recognition is elusive, and the sense of an easy, unquestioned blessing is still a struggle to attain. This bouquet card now appears in the House of the Dog, a card that represents loyalty, attachment, enduring friendship, and trustworthy bonds. This reveals that within this connection, there is indeed a strong sense of attachment, a foundation of loyalty and emotional steadfastness between the two of you. Yet as I look further, I see that the dog itself falls into the House of the Ring, the card that symbolizes binding ties, commitments, promises, contracts, and very often, marriage itself. This chain of connections makes it clear that at the core of this relationship lies a promise, a significant commitment, or a binding tie that carries weight on a social or legal level. And then, continuing along this path, the ring falls into the house of a card that signifies endings, closures, and at the same time, renewal, the restarting or resetting of something after it has come to a complete stop. This progression crystallizes the entire picture. If your person is currently in a marriage or bound by some official, formal commitment, then it is precisely that contract or that vow which must be brought to an end first before your connection can reach a state of blessing, acknowledgement, and forward movement. The message flows one into the next, forming a chain that underlines with great emphasis that these present commitments, this binding tie, is the very key that prevents your relationship from receiving the fullness of blessing and recognition it could otherwise hold. It is as though the spread is shining a light on this barrier, showing it plainly as the central obstacle that must be resolved for love to progress freely. And if, in your case, the other person is not married, the message here still shows that they are bound by some kind of contract or commitment, and unless that bond comes to an end, the two of you cannot move toward a state of blessing and acknowledgement. The spread is speaking quite clearly. This situation places you in a position of waiting for them, and no matter how patient you may be, until that tie is broken, nothing can truly change. The larger issue lies in the fact that whether or not this commitment can ever end remains entirely unanswered, and at present, they themselves see no clear path forward, no tangible solution for this circumstance. For those whose person is married, the contract here is none other than their current marriage. The reading shows that ending this bond with their spouse has not yet been discussed openly, nor has it even reached the stage where any concrete signs of action are visible. This is why, even though there are genuine feelings between you and them, the relationship cannot progress into the phase of being blessed and supported, because the future still lies shrouded in uncertainty, no clarity as to when, how, or even if such a change might occur. And in the case where your person is not someone who has a family, they may nonetheless be burdened by a different kind of binding force, their status or their profession. As I mentioned earlier, if they work in a public field or hold influence, especially in careers where personal image is held to the highest standard, it is very likely they are bound by contractual terms. Such contracts can explicitly dictate the need to maintain a single image or prohibit them from openly disclosing any romantic involvement. Some contracts go even further, forbidding them from entering into relationships altogether, or, if they do, demanding absolute secrecy. This situation is much like what we see in the entertainment industry, particularly among idols, where there are either written clauses or unwritten rules that forbid love, creating conditions in which they cannot freely express or openly pursue a relationship, even though within their heart they may hold real and undeniable feelings for you. The kind of contract shown here can also resemble the situation of someone working as an idol, an artist, or in a profession where they must carefully preserve a public image. Beyond that, it could also relate to a certain position or role within an organization. For example, if you and this person work in the same company or institution, when a romantic relationship begins to develop, especially if it moves toward marriage, there often arises the requirement that one of the two must leave the company. It may not be that the company directly forbids marriage, but rather that internal policies or workplace circumstances dictate that if two people marry, one must resign. And when you take into account the realities of life and finances, leaving a job or transitioning to a new one is not always an easy or simple choice. There are even cases where both remain in the same company, but one of them holds a high-ranking position or carries managerial responsibilities, while the other, or perhaps even that same person, is already tied to an existing marriage. Situations like these form significant obstacles, creating barriers that weigh heavily on the growth of the relationship. Therefore, for those of you who chose pile 1, I sense quite strongly that most of you are in circumstances where one or more obstacles exist between the two of you. These barriers may take the form of social standing, career demands, binding contracts, or the reality that your person already has a family. These are tangible, practical hindrances that cannot easily be dismantled overnight. And if you find that your connection is entirely free from such obstacles or binding factors, then perhaps this particular reading is not the one aligned with your situation. For the energy here is resonating powerfully with relationships that are defined by the presence of constraints and impediments. When I read from both their card and yours, I sense very clearly that this person always holds you in deep regard, with genuine care and a true concern for your happiness. Yet when they turn inward and look at their own circumstances, a situation where they themselves cannot see clearly where the future is heading, they begin to fear that letting you wait for too long in such uncertainty may not be the right thing to do. Inside them lies a strong inner conflict. The feelings are there, the connection is undeniable, yet the decision to take a step forward remains restrained. It may be that both of you silently recognize and understand each other's feelings, but because of these obstacles, the relationship hangs suspended, unable to transition into its next phase. This is something that appears with striking clarity in the spread. I can feel distinctly that when it comes to the realm of emotions, their heart is sending out signals of profound depth toward you. So let me now read from the perspective of the love they carry for you, so you may see it more vividly. The emotional aspect of this person, their feelings of love, is represented here by the heart card. Within them lives a love that is both profound and torn by conflict. The heart falling into the position of the whip reveals that they love you deeply, they long for you intensely, but that very love comes entangled with pain and pressure. It is as though their affection for you, instead of flowing with ease, has become a source of difficulty, weariness, even inner torment. Not because they do not wish to love, but because the circumstances surrounding them deny this love the chance to unfold naturally, freely, and without burden. When I read deeper into this spread, I see the whip card falling into the house of the moon. The moon is often tied to emotions, romance, relationships that carry a deep sense of feeling, as well as matters of honor, reputation, and how one is seen in the eyes of others. Yet in this particular reading, when I trace further from the moon, it lands in the house of the fox. And here lies the most pivotal knot. The fox is a symbol of cleverness and strategy, but it also carries the shadow of concealment, sometimes even deception. Not always deception towards others, but often a form of self-deception, a way of hiding the truth from one's own heart. This sequence makes it abundantly clear that even though their heart is filled with profound feelings for you, they still sense, deep inside, that they are either not allowed or simply unable to fully voice those emotions. They feel compelled to suppress them, to conceal them within themselves, and at times even pretend as if those feelings do not exist at all. This places a heavy burden on their heart, because in doing so it is as though they are turning away from the very truth of their own soul. They are not permitted to let these emotions shine openly into the light, even though within them the yearning and the fire of love still burn intensely and unceasingly. And in this very moment, I can sense as though they are revealing a glimpse of their true face, a quiet admission that they had always kept hidden deep within themselves. This is also the direct answer to the earlier question I raised when speaking about the meaning of the lily card, that it can signify either pure, innocent love or physical attraction. Now, they are making it clear, the feelings they hold for you are those of a pure and genuine love, not governed by physical desire. Even though circumstances compel them to keep it concealed, at the very core of their being it remains a love that is untainted, sincere, and profoundly heartfelt. They are seeing you as a pure love, a connection untouched by the pull of physical craving. They do not look at you through the lens of lust or sexual attraction, but rather through the essence of an unblemished affection that flows from the depths of the heart. Yet it is precisely because this love is so pure, so sincere, that it brings them pain. They are forced to hide it, to restrain it, even to deceive themselves about what they truly feel. They cannot simply give voice to it, nor allow the emotions within to surge freely into the open. Whenever they meet you, whenever they speak to you or share any form of interaction, they must hold themselves back so that these feelings do not surface in a way that is too obvious. They must control themselves to ensure that no signs slip out, that neither you nor anyone else can fully perceive the love they are carrying inside. This leaves them in a state of inner conflict, loving you deeply, yet struggling constantly to prevent that love from breaking through into the light. And it is this very act of suppression that causes them such heartache, pressing down upon their chest as though their heart itself were being squeezed tight. What they wish to confess is that having to conceal such a pure and innocent love is truly suffocating, exhausting, and unbearably heavy for them. And then, as I was reading further into the spread, I began to feel a very distinct signal from them, almost as if they were urging me to keep looking, to continue shedding light on another point that had not yet been fully revealed. It is as though there is still a part of their story that remains unspoken, something unfinished, and they are asking me to open it up and give it voice. So I will follow that guidance and allow the message to unfold. The missing piece lies right here, the place where the energy revolves around those binding forces of contracts or commitments that I mentioned earlier. Whether it is an actual marriage, a binding agreement in work, a position within an organization, or any other circumstance that holds them captive until that bond is released. The relationship between you and them cannot progress beyond a certain threshold. They are emphasizing this point with clarity, that the connection between the two of you will remain halted, blocked by this tether, until it is undone and resolved. And following that, we encounter the cross card, the card that represents burdens, fate, or the trials one must carry as part of their path. The cross here carries the weight of destiny, of karmic lessons, of responsibilities that cannot be ignored, a sense of heaviness that they must shoulder. But what makes this more profound is that the cross now lies in the house of the scythe. And the scythe delivers a message that is striking and powerful. It embodies both the act of cutting away, of bringing something to an end, and at the same time the energy of a sharp, resolute decision. At first glance, you may think these are separate concepts, yet at their very core, they are one and the same. The action of severing, of making a definitive cut, of parting with what no longer serves. This is the heart of what they are showing me now, the inescapable truth that a burden must be lifted through a decisive ending, and that only by making that cut can the path forward between you and them be cleared. If we look at it in the sense of cutting away, it is the decisive act of severing a bond, breaking free from a tie, or removing oneself from a situation that has been binding. And if we look at it in the sense of decision, it signifies a powerful choice that inevitably comes with the sacrifice of something else. In other words, both meanings carry the same essence. Once a decision is made, it must be final. There is no wavering, no turning back. When something is cut, it is cut completely, and that very act of severing marks a clear choice, one that leaves no room for return. The fact that the cross card, the card symbolizing burdens, trials, or fate itself, falls into the house of the scythe shows that for the relationship between you and them to truly move forward, the commitments, contracts, or entanglements that are binding them must be cut away. And the crucial detail here is this: they already carry within them the will to do so. They long to bring it to an end, to release themselves from what has been holding them down, to free themselves from the weight that has kept them tethered. I can also feel strongly that this person is not always skilled at putting their heart into words. They tend to be sparing with language, speaking briefly, often in short, clipped sentences that can easily be misunderstood. There are times when you hear them say something and you take it in one way, only to later discover that their true intention was entirely different and they never meant what you initially thought. This tendency makes it very easy for moments of misunderstanding to arise between you, because words often fall short of conveying the depths of what they truly feel inside. Their inner world is so much richer and more complex than the fragments of speech that reach the surface, and this gap between expression and intention can at times cloud the clarity of your bond. This scythe, in turn, connects directly to the snake. And here lies a fascinating detail, for the snake often symbolizes complexity, hidden obstacles, cunning maneuvering, and at times even the presence of a third party. The link between the scythe and the snake reveals that the act of cutting away, or the decisive choice they are moving toward, is likely tied directly to a tangled, troublesome situation. Perhaps even a relationship or a negative influence that has wrapped itself tightly around them. This connection opens up an entirely new layer of meaning. The decision they must make is not simply about ending a contract or breaking a binding agreement, but also about confronting deeply knotted challenges in order to truly liberate themselves. The snake in this spread unveils a crucial layer of significance. It may represent jealousy, the shadow of a rival in love, or the forceful presence of another individual who clings to your person, entangling them in a way that makes escape difficult. It could be a problematic relationship, a toxic influence, or a complicated situation they never wished for, yet somehow became ensnared in. It is like an external rope coiled around them, the grip of outside forces clinging and pulling, restraining them, and preventing them from moving forward freely. The snake reveals that the liberation they seek will not come without confrontation. It requires the courage to cut through the web of jealousy, rivalry, or negative entanglements that hold them bound. And only through this act of severing can they reclaim their freedom to step into the future unburdened. Deep within, this person truly longs to escape from this enclosure, to liberate themselves from the chains that bind them. And the spread is showing with striking clarity that they carry within them the will to make the decisive cut, both in the figurative sense and in the most literal way, with whatever force or influence has been holding them back. This is an affirmation that, at their core, they cannot accept the idea of remaining bound forever. Yet the path toward this release is far from simple. They are caught in a paradoxical state, tightly entangled, yet simultaneously struggling to find a way out, and this creates an inner battle, silent yet relentless, that consumes them over time. I can feel that even though they waver, confused and hesitant, there still exists within them a profound determination to change. As I connect more deeply with their energy, I sense as though they themselves are directly participating in this reading, stepping in to voice what they urgently wish to make known. And as I follow that thread further, a pressing question immediately arises. What is it, then, that prevents them from making this decision right now? What is the cause, the reason that holds them back? To illuminate this, I turn to the tarot, seeking to uncover both the hidden subconscious layers and the surface of their conscious awareness. In the realm of the subconscious, the realm of what lies deep beneath, often unseen even by themselves, a card from the suit of wands emerges. This card reveals that within them still burns a flame, a fire of desire and intention that yearns for action, for movement forward. Yet entwined with this flame is a heightened sense of defense, of caution, of guarded watchfulness. It is as if they stand poised between yearning and fear, carrying both the impulse to step forward and the weight of dread about what that step might unleash. They want to act, yet they recoil from the possible consequences of that very action, leaving them locked in a tension between passion and fear, between the call of freedom and the threat of fallout. Continuing into the realm of consciousness, the space of what they are aware of and confront each day, I perceive a state filled with hesitation, indecision, and even a certain shyness. It is not that they lack courage altogether, but rather that worry, unease, and the fear of failure are steering their steps. These emotions keep them circling in a loop of thought, unable to move forward or backward with clarity, unable to make a definitive choice. When I take in the larger picture, it becomes unmistakably clear. This is someone caught between the yearning for freedom and the dread of the price they might have to pay for that choice. The spread shows that if they could overcome their fear and act, they would indeed have the power to break free from the enclosure that now surrounds them. Yet at this very moment, they remain trapped in the midst of an inner battle, a constant tug of war between the heart that longs to advance and the cautious mind that holds them back. In the conscious realm, in other words, in what they directly perceive and grapple with, the card that has surfaced is the Nine of Wands. This card speaks of a stance of vigilance, of caution, of keeping distance in order to watch and assess the situation. They stand almost motionless, refraining from rash moves, as though a sentinel at the gate, maintaining a defensive posture, protecting themselves, shielding their position, while at the same time scrutinizing every shift in the environment around them. Although earlier energies in the reading have shown that they feel unable to act, what is clear here is that they also do not wish to act immediately. Instead, they choose to wait, to observe how matters unfold around them. They watch closely the reactions of others, the gaze and expectations directed their way, and they remain highly conscious of their role, their image, and their sense of responsibility in the social sphere. The eyes of others matter to them, both in the realm of work and in their personal life, and so for now, their choice is to remain still, to stay in place, quietly and attentively following the flow of events. Next, within this conscious layer, the Seven of Cups emerges. This card reveals that their inner world is overflowing with countless thoughts, scenarios, and possible choices. They have their own desires, their own way of wanting to act, but every time they imagine taking a step, they immediately see the ripple of consequences spreading outward. If I do this, how will those around me react? How will you feel? How will my work be affected? What will happen to my other relationships? And because they weigh so many possibilities at once, they become trapped in a whirlwind of thoughts, where the more they look, the more entangled it all becomes, leaving them unable to settle on a decisive course. They long to move forward, but each option carries with it a burden of variables so overwhelming that it causes them to falter and step back. On the deeper level, the subconscious, they are still in the state of watchfulness that the Nine of Wands has already revealed. Yet the question lingers, what is the purpose of this watchfulness? Are they waiting for the right moment to act, or are they merely seeking excuses to delay? To shed light on this, I drew 3 additional cards, and the result was the Moon, the Seven of Wands, and the Seven of Swords. How striking, how telling, that 2 sevens appear here together, an unmistakable sign that this is a phase of testing for the mind, a period demanding wisdom and choice, yet at the same time a stage where one can easily slip into patterns of defensiveness, avoidance, or evasive strategy. The Moon reflects confusion, illusion, and the blurring of clarity, suggesting that in their subconscious they are still wandering in shadows, unable to see the full truth of their own emotions. The Seven of Wands shows the urge to defend, to push back, to stand their ground, as though they are constantly bracing against invisible challenges. And the Seven of Swords speaks of strategy, of maneuvering, of sometimes taking a roundabout or even secretive approach rather than confronting matters directly. Together, these cards paint a vivid portrait of their inner conflict, a mind caught in hesitation and uncertainty, a heart that wants to fight for its truth, and yet a tendency to hold back, to calculate. to search for hidden ways around instead of walking boldly through the front door. This triad reveals that the delay, the hesitation, is not only born of fear but also of a strategic, guarded mindset that keeps them circling rather than stepping fully into liberation. The moon reflects ambiguity, unease, and the weight of fears and doubts that cloud their mind. Deep in the subconscious, they do not fully trust the road that lies ahead, and at times they even fear confronting the truth or facing the outcomes that might arise should they take action. This reluctance slows every decision, casting a veil of hesitation over their choices. The Seven of Wands shows that they clearly feel the pressure coming from many directions, forcing them to defend their current stance or position. It is as though they are standing on higher ground, constantly bracing themselves against external forces, always in a state of vigilance, always aware that they must hold their ground against opposing energies. And then, the Seven of Swords reveals another layer of their energy, one marked by caution so intense that it drives them to calculate every step with secrecy, sometimes resorting to avoidance or concealment, unwilling to let others see their full plan or their true emotions. Taken together, both their conscious and subconscious states revolve around caution, watchfulness, and careful calculation. They are standing at a crossroads, faced with multiple choices, yet surrounded by fear and pressure that make every direction feel uncertain. Within their heart there still lingers the longing to move toward you, but at this moment, the combination of caution, their concern for how others may react, and the fog of uncertainty about what the future holds keeps them from making a clear, decisive choice. They remain caught in this liminal space, yearning yet restrained, seeing the possibilities, yet bound by hesitation and fear of the unknown. In the depths of this person's subconscious, what stands out most clearly is that they are watching, carefully observing the situation, yet not in a way that is entirely passive. What they are truly searching for is an opening, a gap, an opportunity, or the right conditions that would allow them to act. They are seeking to pinpoint the exact moment when they can seize control, when they can take the lead in shaping circumstances and guide the relationship forward in the direction they secretly desire. They are weighing matters with great precision, trying to discern how to make a choice that allows them to remain in command, rather than being pushed into a corner or forced into dependency on external circumstances. For instance, if what lies between you and them involves contractual entanglements in work or binding obligations within an organization, then at the subconscious level, they are calculating whether there is a way to sustain the bond with you while at the same time maneuvering cleverly around those restrictions. They are actively searching for those scenarios in which, if they gain the upper hand, they could open a new path that brings them closer to you. For those bound in marriage or something of similar weight, the energy of this reading reveals that they are even factoring in strategy on a broader scale. When a binding like marriage comes to an end, it inevitably involves layers of complexity, legal procedures, financial settlements, questions of benefits, duties, and responsibilities all come into play. They recognize that severing such a tie is not merely a matter of leaving, but a long process that might demand negotiation, division, and careful handling of delicate matters. And because of this, their mind reaches further into the future. How can they bring about an ending in such a way that they themselves remain in the most advantageous position possible? This is not necessarily selfishness, but rather their way of protecting themselves amid the complex web of factors pressing in on them. Yet, it is also precisely because they must calculate and weigh so much that their actions slow, their movements become cautious and deliberate. Every step is measured, every possibility assessed, so that when the moment finally arrives, they can not only free themselves from what binds them, but also hold their ground, maintaining control as they move steadily toward you. This person seems to be in a state of searching with great intensity, seeking a method, a strategy, a way to turn the situation in their favor, to ensure that when the time comes to act, they will hold the most advantageous and dominant position. For them, if they cannot proceed from a place of initiative, if they cannot secure the level of control they desire, then even if they wish to demand an ending or to dissolve an agreement, they would encounter obstacles and find themselves unable to bring it to completion. This is why they feel compelled to think deeply, to plan carefully, to carve out a course of action that they can rely upon with certainty. All of this belongs to the realm of the subconscious, which means they themselves may not be fully aware of the extent to which they are operating this way. On the surface, what appears outwardly is hesitation, confusion, an image of someone undecided and unable to move forward. Yet beneath that exterior lies a different truth. The moment they identify the crucial turning point, the exact fulcrum of action, they will be ready to move instantly. Within them is the nature of a tiger, of a warrior, or of any hunter that waits with patience and precision, watching every movement of the prey, biding time until the perfect moment presents itself, and then suddenly striking with decisive force. For them, the essential phase is this quiet, hidden period of assessment, carefully weighing, considering, and taking the measure of the situation with clarity before making their move. And although this process is happening in the subconscious, invisible to conscious thought, it manifests outwardly as indecision, as hesitation, as if they are wavering. In truth, however, it is the stillness of strategy, the calm before the strike, the watchful eyes of one preparing to unleash a decision that, when the time arrives, will be both sudden and irrevocable. Here, the energy also reveals as though there comes a moment when they receive an added force of support, almost like a spiritual push, a sudden surge that awakens within them a sense of exhilaration and readiness. It is like the image of a resounding strike, a pounding rhythm, an insistent beat that fills them with strength, urging them forward. In that instant, they are infused with vitality, overflowing with energy, seized by the desire to finally speak out the words they have long suppressed. It feels as if, at just the right moment, an event or a person appears before them, sudden and unexpected, like a small flying squirrel darting into their path, stirring awake the yearning within them to release what has been buried deep in their heart. Ordinarily, it is so difficult for them to share these hidden truths, but when such a moment arrives, it feels impossible to remain silent, as though the very act of holding back would suffocate them, leaving them breathless and overwhelmed. What they need, more than anything, is someone who can truly understand them, for in their present circumstances, finding such an opening, such a space to bare their soul, is profoundly difficult. The cards that appear here are the Eight of Wands, the Nine of Pentacles, and the King of Wands. Together, they paint a vivid picture. The Eight of Wands speaks of acceleration, momentum, and swift movement, an energy that brings both urgency and clarity, a push from the universe to propel them forward. The Nine of Pentacles reflects a person of standing, of position, of self-sufficiency and accomplishment, someone who has already established a certain level of independence, success, or recognition. And the King of Wands emphasizes authority, leadership, vision, and power, the embodiment of someone who not only carries responsibility, but also wields influence, someone who must weigh carefully every action, because their choices ripple outward into the eyes of many. Altogether, these cards reveal a person who indeed occupies a defined role, a place of importance, one that demands vigilance, calculation, and careful preservation of both image and initiative. It is precisely this position that compels them to be so deliberate, to hold back, to think many steps ahead before they act. Yet beneath the surface of this composure, there is a restless energy, a surge of passion waiting for the right moment to burst forth. They are pulled between their role, their status, their responsibilities, and the raw, urgent desire within to express themselves, to move, to reach toward what their heart truly longs for. This duality creates a tension that makes their silence feel heavier, their restraint more painful, but it also highlights just how powerful the moment will be when they finally let those words and emotions pour out into the open. On their side, I sense that they are carrying something deeply tied to long-term obligations, almost like a contract that has endured over an extended period of time, and this is reflected in the energy of the Four of Swords. Following this, the card that complements the Eight of Wands is the Knight of Wands. And when the Eight of Wands combines with the Knight of Wands, the energy becomes explosive. It is the kind of momentum that, once set into motion, cannot be stopped. And immediately after that, the Seven of Wands appears. The combination of the Eight of Wands, the Knight of Wands, and the Seven of Wands speaks with remarkable clarity, and I feel that it ties directly back to the layers of their subconscious. On the surface, at the conscious level, they still appear torn, unable to arrive at a decisive conclusion. But deep within, once they discover something that makes them feel entirely capable of seizing control, they will act without hesitation, and once they begin, they will surge forward with astonishing speed, unstoppable. They are waiting for that exact moment, waiting to identify the precise point of contact they need, and once it becomes clear, they will launch themselves ahead without the slightest pause. I see this as a process in which they are silently watching, evaluating, gathering energy in stillness, holding it in reserve until the right instant when they can break free and strike forward. And perhaps, once they finally find that key, their mood will transform instantly, brightening, lifting, filling with relief and renewed enthusiasm. This is why the energy of the spread is emphasizing this so strongly, because their movement hinges on the discovery of that strategy, that method, that opening which will allow them to act from a place of strength, to end a binding or complete a contract with certainty and finality. For them, if they cannot move forward from such a position of initiative, if circumstances slip into a state of compromise or half measures, then the card, the metaphor for their chance, their course of action, loses all its value, and they would find themselves cornered with no room to retreat. This is why they must remain patient, why they must continue to observe so carefully, seeking out the exact gap, the precise leverage point that will let them turn the situation in their favor. And for now, they have not yet found it. They have not yet identified the opportunity or the perfect method that would allow them to both keep control and move forward with safety. That is why they are holding still, not because they intend to remain unmoving forever, but because they know within themselves that this is not yet the time to take the step. They want you to understand clearly that their current pause does not mean they are giving up, nor does it signify that they have chosen to remain still indefinitely. They do not wish for the image of themselves to be frozen at hesitation, indecision, or stagnation. And perhaps this is why, in the energy of today's spread, they are stepping forward deliberately, choosing to appear so they can explain themselves, so that you may see the truth that lies within them more clearly. In them, I sense a wave of gratitude, as though they are thankful for the chance to speak, to be heard, to finally let their voice reach you. At the same time, the energy shows with clarity that this person seems bound, attached, or held by a contract or a relationship that has endured for quite a long time. This could be a professional relationship tied to a long-term agreement, or it may be someone with whom they have shared a lengthy journey. It could also be a job or a role that has consumed vast amounts of their time, energy, and dedication, a path where they have poured so much effort to build, to invest, and to accumulate results over the years. All of these elements form a crucial part of the reason why they must weigh their decisions so carefully, because every step they take directly affects what they have poured themselves into, the fruits of all their past labor. They are telling you that they already hold achievements, that they have indeed built and accumulated something substantial over a long period, along with the position, the role, and the status they now occupy. They are acutely aware of this. And it is precisely because of that awareness that they cannot, and will not, allow themselves to act recklessly or impulsively. They emphasize strongly that any step they take must be considered, deliberate, and thought through with care. The appearance of the Four of Swords reinforces this truth. It shows that they are in a period of pause, of introspection, of stepping back to reflect and to gather strength. They need this time of stillness, this quiet space, to evaluate the situation thoroughly and to prepare themselves for the weight of the decisions ahead. It is not idleness, but a deliberate retreat, a moment of calm before stepping into the gravity of choices that will shape the path forward. I drew one more card, and what appeared was the Four of Wands. And this fits perfectly, seamlessly, with the overall picture that the spread has been painting. The combination of the Four of Wands and the Four of Swords reveals a very distinct energy. At this present moment, their work, their contractual obligations, or their family life is resting in a state of stability. Yet this stability does not necessarily mean happiness, fulfillment, or deep joy. Rather, it resembles a long-maintained equilibrium, a balance that has been sustained over time, where everyone around them, whether colleagues in work, family members at home, or individuals within an organization, believes that this person will remain exactly where they are, continuing to uphold and maintain everything just as it has always been. If this is family, then perhaps their spouse or family members assume without question that they will always stay unchanged, a steady presence within the household. If this is work or an organization, then coworkers, partners, or superiors assume they will remain committed, continuing their contributions as before. And it is precisely because of this assumption, this image of stability that others hold of them, that when they begin to realize they are not intending to remain forever, that sooner or later they must leave, they must change the course of their path. They also recognize that it is something they will have to speak about, to express openly. But such a revelation cannot be made suddenly or impulsively. Around them are relationships, bonds, and ties that have been built up layer by layer over a very long period of time. And so, the way they communicate this, the words they choose, the moment in which they reveal it, and the demeanor with which they express their intention, all of these must be chosen with careful thought. They must find a way to honor and respect all that has been built, while at the same time avoiding causing unnecessary harm or disruption to those who are intertwined with them. It is a delicate balance, one that requires patience, foresight, and grace to prepare for change while still preserving the dignity of what has been created in the past. This shows very clearly that they are fully aware of the need to think with utmost care, that they cannot act on impulse, especially in this matter. This is a pivotal point, a decisive factor, one to which they are devoting a great deal of focus and intention. One of the most important elements for them is to find a path forward, a development or opening that allows them to move ahead from a position of initiative, with the advantage in their hands. And alongside that, an equally crucial element is the way in which they will communicate and share their decision with those around them. They know they must find the words, the tone, the method of expression that will not only explain but also persuade, creating a sense of understanding, or at the very least a degree of acceptance, even if they know well that achieving full agreement from everyone is nearly impossible. The manner in which they convey this must be carefully calculated, crafted so that respect for relationships is preserved, harmony is maintained, and unnecessary hurt or disruption is avoided. They are telling us that they see this as a responsibility tied deeply to their current role and position. This responsibility does not belong solely to themselves, but extends outward to encompass the relationships, the bonds, and the people who are connected to them. And for this reason, they hold it in very high regard, weighing it heavily, placing great emphasis on the need for careful consideration. They are in a state of waiting, of watchfulness, preparing themselves for two critical points. The first, to identify the opening that will allow them to advance with strength and initiative. The second, to determine the way to articulate their intentions so that others may accept, or at least comprehend, the decision they have made. They are carrying this with gravity, with patience, with a deep awareness that their words and their choices will shape not only their own future, but also the equilibrium of the relationships and responsibilities that surround them. When these two elements finally converge, they will hold enough reason, enough grounding, to take the next step forward. And at this point, I sense that their thoughts, their inner voice, have become clearer, their intentions more defined. It feels as though I have now gathered a fuller picture of what they have been wanting to convey. That is why I will continue to expand, to read deeper, especially into the places where they are yearning to speak, to reveal more of themselves. Earlier, I had touched on the heart, the energy that binds you and them together, and now I want to move further, into the house of the heart itself. Inside this house, I see the number 3, and here, it is accompanied by the presence of the sun. This combination is profoundly illuminating. The sun reveals that the love, the feeling they hold for you, is utterly pure and radiant, without any shade of distortion or hidden stain. It is a love that shines with clarity, sincerity, and directness, a feeling unclouded by ambiguity. And when I look into the meaning of the number 3 in this context, I see it bound to the image of the key, a symbol of solution, of the door that opens to the answer long sought. This makes me feel, with great certainty, that deep within, they see their love for you as a solution in itself, perhaps even the most vital solution to the entanglements and difficulties they are currently facing. If within this love there had been any admixture, whether doubt, hesitation, or the weight of distractions from outside, it would have weakened its force, diminished its brilliance. But here, the energy shows that this love remains untainted, untouched by negative currents. It is a stream of clear light, a faith they hold sacred, something they treasure as an essential core within themselves. And beyond that, it is also a guiding light, one they trust as the compass pointing them toward their future. It is not merely affection, it is conviction, it is the clarity of truth, it is the beacon that they believe will lead them out of their present labyrinth and into the path where they truly belong. On this aspect, I can sense so clearly that within their heart there exists a delicate and subtle contradiction. They carry a profound love for you. Yet at the same time, they're acutely aware that their current circumstances do not allow them to act carelessly or half-heartedly. They know that they must weigh many surrounding factors, consider the impact on those connected to them, and it is precisely this awareness that makes them all the more cautious. And yet, even while bound by so many layers of thought and restraint, they still want to emphasize, with unmistakable clarity, that the love they hold for you is a pure love, a love unclouded, untainted by ulterior motives, free from calculation or self-interest. It is a love that stands straight and true, arising solely from the heart. To them, this love brings light, warmth, and a wellspring of spiritual strength. Even when the external reality, the circumstances enveloping the bond between you, may feel obscured by heavy clouds, clouds of uncertainty, of obstacles that render the future hazy and difficult to predict, this love remains unaltered, retaining its purity and its straightforward honesty as it was from the very beginning. They want you to know that it is precisely this love, this genuine and unshaken feeling, that is the key, the pivotal point, the very axis upon which everything turns. It is this love that they see as the crucial key to unlocking solutions, the guiding element that allows them to discover the way forward. And in their inner world, they are holding onto this feeling as the axis around which all else revolves, as the compass by which they seek to navigate their path, as the beacon that illuminates the way toward resolution. Not only that, but the energy also reveals that in your house, the star card, the card of hope, has appeared. This shows that, in their eyes, you are the guiding light, the beacon that illuminates their path. In contrast, within their own house lies the image of the anchor, a symbol of being held, fixed, or restrained. This reflects that, at present, they may be in a state where they cannot act, or they may be consciously choosing to remain still, to stay rooted in place while watching and waiting for the right moment. Whether it is because of external constraints or by their own intention to preserve stability, they continue to look toward you with unwavering faith and clarity. To them, both the love they hold for you and your very presence are light. This light does more than brighten the shadows in their soul. It rekindles hope. It fuels the strength that allows them to move forward toward the future. And yet, I can feel that in this moment, they cannot speak these truths openly. Just like the book card, the symbol of secrets, that has appeared in the House of the Star, this reveals that the truth of you being their light, their beacon, is something they must keep hidden. They are compelled to conceal it, to keep it from the eyes of others, unable to voice it aloud. For now, it can only exist as a flame smoldering quietly within, a hidden fire burning in the depths of their heart, waiting for the ripened moment when it can finally be revealed and set free into the open. I sense here that there is something they still cannot speak of at this very moment. They are holding it back, keeping it hidden, like a secret locked away that has not yet reached the time for revelation. But when I look deeper into the energy, I see that within the House of the Book, the card of concealment and mysteries, the image of the ship appears. The ship is a powerful symbol of journeys, of movement, of departures into new horizons, and, more importantly, it speaks of challenge, of bold steps forward into uncharted territory. Alongside it, there is also the gentle yet decisive pink radiance of the Yes card, a strong affirmation that makes it clear that even though they must, for now, keep things silent, unable to voice or share openly, deep inside, they yearn to embark, to try, to move forward and throw themselves into something new. And what propels them, what urges them toward this step, is the love they hold for you. This person is using the love they feel for you as their axis, as the foundation upon which they seek solutions. At the same time, they are taking your very presence as their anchor of strength, the support that steadies them against the challenges they long to face. Even if, on the surface, you may see them as hesitant, indecisive, unable to take a firm stand, within, their heart is quietly shaping a plan. From your perspective, it might seem like all that shows is wavering, lack of clarity, leaving you unsure of where they are heading or what they are truly thinking. But in truth, within their mind, even though they may not yet see a perfect, complete solution that untangles everything at once, they are still watching intently, evaluating each detail, and above all, keeping their focus steady on guiding this relationship toward a brighter, more promising direction. Deep within, their silence is not absence, but preparation, the quiet construction of a path forward, forged in secrecy, but driven always by the force of their feelings for you. They are not placing what they currently have, their bindings, their contracts, their responsibilities, or their position as the central axis of their decision. The only true center for them remains you and this connection. They want the future to be shaped upon that foundation, not upon the old frameworks that have been binding and confining them. And here, I feel it is the right moment to draw a card meant as a message especially for you. I direct the energy and sense the presence of voices flowing through the Angel Answers deck, a deck that often delivers words not as abstract advice, but as direct, unambiguous messages. The energy I receive here is not merely guidance. It is a message, spoken with clarity, as though it comes straight from them to you, from the depths of their own heart. They want to emphasize, to reaffirm, to etch into your soul the truth that this love is real, that it is serious, that it is not half-formed nor fleeting. What they feel for you is not shallow, not something temporary, not an emotion that can be easily replaced or swept aside. It is precisely because this love is true, because it runs deep and endures, that it has become the very center, the axis around which they are seeking to resolve all else. They may know, with honesty, that resolving everything in such a way that all parties are fully content, where every outcome is perfectly smooth and complete, is far from easy. They are aware that perfection may not be possible. Yet regardless of how the outcome unfolds, the foundation upon which they will base their choices, the compass that points their steps forward, is and will always be this love for you. That is both their beginning point and their ultimate anchor, the source of their movement, the root of their decisions, and the guiding star they will continue to follow. The fact that this card appeared at the very moment I intended to draw guidance for you, but instead revealed itself as a direct affirmation from them, makes me believe this is precisely the message the universe wishes you to receive right now. And it is also, in truth, the deepest counsel, to understand that their love is real, and that this is the very reason they have chosen the path they envision for the future. With this, I will bring the reading for those of you in Pile 1 to a close. If today's message has touched you, even just a little, I would be grateful if you could leave a sign, a like, a comment, or even just a small symbol, so that I may know your heart has received it. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of this reading. I look forward to meeting you again in the readings to come. Hello to everyone who chose Pile 2. Thank you for your patience, and now I will begin the reading for those of you who have selected the second pile. My hope is that this reading will bring you healing, new realizations, and tender moments filled with love. The theme here is, what is happening in their heart right now? First of all, the energy I receive from this reading suggests that this person seems to be carrying something very heavy on their shoulders. It feels like a burden of destiny or a responsibility they are compelled to bear, not necessarily something they truly desire or have chosen for themselves. This may be connected to the element of karmic debt, a spiritual obligation or challenge brought from past lifetimes, or it may simply be a profound life lesson in their current journey that they are required to face. In some cases, these burdens are not things they ever needed to endure, at least not from the perspective of logic or personal freedom, but somehow, circumstances, obligations, or attachments have led them to accept these weights upon themselves. And the greatest task for them, the most profound lesson within this path, is to discover a way to release those burdens, to bring themselves back into a state of freedom, to free themselves from what does not truly belong to them, and more importantly, to accomplish this through their own willpower and conscious choice. I sense that this very weight, this karmic or fated burden they are carrying, has been directly influencing the bond between you and them. For some of you watching this reading, the connection you share with this person may be one of deep soul ties, something ancient and enduring, the kind of link that feels destined, where two souls cross paths not only to love each other, but also to walk together through essential life lessons. This explains why the feelings between you hold such a paradoxical quality, at times deeply familiar, as if you have known each other for lifetimes, yet at the same time complex, layered, and filled with challenges that test one another's strength. There exists between you a certain closeness, an undeniable sense of nearness. It feels as though the physical distance or the environments you occupy are not far apart. Perhaps you are in the same space, the same workplace, the same organization, or share a community. This energy gives me the impression that this is not a bond of strangers, not something new or unfamiliar, but a connection where your lives have already overlapped in tangible ways. Yet, when I look closely at the direction of the two cards, I see an image of both of you turning your backs on each other. In this reading, that symbolizes how things appear from their perspective. In their heart, you are still very close, still very present within their sphere of influence, yet there lingers a sense of distance, that feeling of being near but untouchable. It is as though the physical space or shared environment between you is short, but the gap created by circumstances, by situations, or by emotions stretches the two of you apart. This makes me think of the energy I felt in Pile 1 as well, carrying the same subtle tone of being side by side, yet not easily able to reach one another. On the emotional level, I can clearly sense that there is a powerful connection between the two of you, one that feels as though you have been deeply bonded before or have shared an intimate, soulful tie that transcends ordinary relationships. Yet, on the surface, when it comes to communication or actual interaction, things do not flow easily. It feels as though there are elements standing in the way between you, perhaps not obstacles in the harshest sense of the word, but certainly influences that make this journey anything but effortless. This is not a path where you simply walk forward smoothly. Rather, it carries the feeling of something invisible, intangible, yet strong enough to slow the steps you take toward one another. When I look into the reading, I see the writer. This is a clear sign that this person carries a message, something they wish to send to you. In their heart, there is a thought, a desire, an intention to express, a longing to convey a truth or sentiment. The energy here carries the tone of glad tidings, of hopeful news, of something that they believe, once it reaches you, will bring warmth and reassurance or ignite a sense of hope. Yet at the same time, the feeling I receive shows that they cannot bring themselves to say it right away. They're holding it within, as if waiting for the right moment to allow it to emerge. I feel strongly that even if they cannot directly voice it to you now, deep down they are contemplating ways to let that information, that message, reach you, almost as if they wish to place a letter in your hand so you can truly feel it. This is not just a fleeting thought, but a genuine yearning born from their heart, and the writer here is a powerful indication of movement, of transmission. It assures that this message, this piece of news or heartfelt expression, sooner or later will find its way to you, carried by the flow of destiny until it reaches the place where it belongs. I sense that perhaps when they are finally able to send that message to you, it will mark the opening of a new beginning, or at the very least, it will clear a pathway that has long been blocked. It feels as though a door will swing open, allowing both of you to step into another stage of your journey, one filled with greater possibilities and untapped potential. This impression comes through very strongly, and to truly understand its depth and meaning, I will read and analyze each detail step by step. Starting with the card that represents them, I see it positioned in the House of the Star. The star carries the energy of faith, of hope, of dreams, and of the guiding light that illuminates the way forward. This reveals that deep within their heart, they are nurturing a sense of hope, a longing to move towards something better. They have not surrendered, nor are they entirely consumed by despair or stagnation. On the contrary, there is still a flame that burns within their spirit, urging them onward, reminding them that the future holds promise. Going deeper, within the House of the Star appears the Fish card, a symbol of abundance, prosperity, and overflowing resources. This combination leads me to feel that the hope they are tending to is intimately tied to the notion of fullness and wealth, though defined in their own way. For some, wealth might strictly mean material possessions, money, assets, social status, recognition, property, or the comfort of tangible things like homes and vehicles. Yet for them, this concept seems to expand into something broader and more profound. It embodies a sense of security, of freedom, of having the agency to choose and to act upon their desires. It is the richness of being able to create a life that reflects their innermost vision, and the comfort of knowing that they are not bound or deprived, but instead empowered to move with grace toward the fulfillment they seek. The Fish card reveals that they are yearning intensely for this sense of abundance and fulfillment. It is not just a simple wish or passing desire, but rather something that feels like a prerequisite, a condition they believe must be met in order to unlock the dreams that remain unfinished within them. When I place these two elements side by side, the star and the fish, the connection becomes clear. The moment this fullness, this abundance, manifests, a very significant wish of theirs will come true. Continuing to observe, I notice that in this reading the Fish card lies right next to the card representing them. This placement suggests that their longing for abundance is not merely an abstract idea, but something that exists very close to them, so close in fact that it directly influences their thoughts, their decisions, and their actions on a daily basis. It is a force that breathes upon them constantly, shaping the way they see their path forward. And when I look deeper into the house in which the fish resides, the message I receive is that the wish tied to this card is connected to movement, to a significant transition or a pivotal relocation. This could mean that they long to leave behind their current circumstances and step into another place, another state of being, or a new and different situation. It might point to a geographical shift, a journey, a change of residence, or a move that brings them physically closer to you. Yet it could also represent a movement in terms of circumstances, a release from restraints, a stepping into a new phase of their personal life, or into a transformed stage of the relationship between you. In either sense, the essence is the same. They dream of a passage, of crossing into another space where possibilities expand, burdens lift, and the course of life is no longer confined, but opened into something freer, richer, and more aligned with the vision they hold within their heart. In summary, at this moment they are nurturing a hope illuminated by the light of the star, and that hope is deeply entwined with the desire to attain abundance, a condition they believe will open the door for them to make an important transition, one that encompasses both their physical space and the course of their life. What I see here is that within their heart lies a very clear longing, the wish to leave the place where they currently are, to shift into another environment, another set of circumstances. They hold the belief that if this dream becomes reality, it will unlock greater opportunities for them and very possibly bring them closer to you. Yet, for this wish to take form, they feel there must be a crucial element of support, and that element is tied to money, to material sufficiency, or to resources connected with power, status, and recognition. It is highly likely that they think if they can grasp control over these resources, if they can exercise freedom in how they use their finances or assets, then the act of moving, of transitioning, will finally become possible. Here, multiple scenarios seem to unfold. One is that they may require a significant amount of money in order to be able to leave. Another is that they must first achieve a position, a certain honor, or social acknowledgement before making such a shift. And yet another is that they must secure the autonomy to manage and direct their resources without constraint or interference. All of these thoughts revolve around one essential core. They are convinced that abundance is the key, the very cornerstone, that will allow them to break free from their present circumstances and step toward the life they long for. When I observe the layout, I see the stork card placed within the house of the fish, and this once again emphasizes the undeniable link between movement, transition, and abundance or sufficiency. Following the stork, I am led to the letter card. The letter stands as the symbol of communication, of an announcement, a message, or some form of information being delivered. And what is striking here is that this letter card connects directly with the writer, the messenger. This connection paints for me an even clearer picture. They believe that only when they have attained a state of abundance and successfully carried out a transition will they be able to send you something good, to deliver a joyful announcement, or to offer a sign that carries positive energy. This also means that, in their present state, while they remain where they are unmoved, without any significant change, their wish to bring you glad news becomes difficult, if not impossible, to realize. It feels as though they are silently saying, if I stay here, if nothing changes, I cannot bring you anything uplifting. As I continue to delve deeper, I notice that within the house of the letter card, the migrating birds card appears, and when I trace the letter further, it rests within the house of the clouds card. The clouds carry the meaning of obscurity, uncertainty, or a vision that is veiled and unclear. This indicates that, for them at this moment, the path leading to change or movement is not yet fully visible. The future is still shrouded in a mist of ambiguity. Even though there is a powerful yearning burning inside, the reality right in front of them holds many uncertainties that prevent them from clearly seeing the whole picture or deciding with certainty when the right time to act will come. I can feel very strongly that this person genuinely wishes to bring you good news, a positive message, yet the prerequisite is that they must first be able to leave the place where they currently are. Only once they can make that move will they feel ready to express those words. However, the challenge lies in the timing and the manner in which to do so. It is still indistinct, not something that can be firmly established right now. The energy of this reading reveals that sending out this joyful message does not yet have a fixed schedule, but that does not mean they are abandoning the idea or believing it to be impossible. It simply means that at this stage, they cannot yet see the entire road ahead. Still, deep within, they are holding onto the longing and the determination to eventually speak to you, carrying that desire in their heart until the path becomes clear enough for them to act upon it. The clouds card, symbolizing obscurity, vagueness, and a lack of clear vision, emerges here in the house of the tower. The tower in this context does not merely refer to a literal building or a physical place. It carries the weight of law, societal rules, organizational structures, or collective regulations that are official and binding. It may also represent institutions, corporations, or authoritative bodies that an individual must abide by. When the tower combines with the clouds, it paints a picture of someone who is entangled or constrained by the rules, frameworks, or governing systems of a larger structure, and this is precisely the factor that hinders them from moving freely toward you. As I follow the thread deeper, I see that this very tower resides within the house of the ring. The ring is infused with the energy of binding commitments. It speaks of contracts, obligations, agreements, promises, and, in some cases, even marriage. The interweaving of these cards reveals that the bonds surrounding this person are not merely personal or informal in nature. They carry a formal, perhaps even legal weight, something official and binding that they cannot simply walk away from or dissolve at a moment's notice. This alignment explains why, even though within their heart they long to approach you, to deliver good news and open their truth to you, they remain stopped in their tracks by walls that are not visible to the eye yet heavy and immovable in their impact. These invisible walls may take the form of contractual obligations, legal responsibilities, or a formal relationship into which they have already entered. The energy here is also quite remarkable, for it mirrors a thread that ran through the first pile. It is possible that some of you who chose pile 2 also found yourselves drawn toward pile 1, hesitating between the two. If that is the case, it is no coincidence. These two piles are interlinked in their messages, and when their meanings are placed together, they weave a clearer, more complete picture of the inner state and struggles of this person. For those of you who chose pile 2, I see with great clarity a pivotal point. This person is bound by contractual or committed obligations, and because of that, the progress of your connection cannot unfold as swiftly as you might hope. This is not a matter of rejection, nor is it a lack of affection. It is the presence of a significant knot, a major entanglement in their circumstances, one that they have not yet found a way to untie in this moment. I feel strongly that the very heart of the issue lies in these binding contracts or commitments that are holding them back. This could manifest as a work-related contract, a financial agreement, or even a marital bond. The energy of this reading makes it clear that within this binding structure, they do not hold the power or the upper hand. For instance, if the situation involves a work contract, it may be that the income they rely on or the financial resources that sustain them are controlled by the contracting party. If the bond is marriage, then it is possible that their spouse holds complete control over the family's finances, that is to say, the money, the assets, even access to and usage of resources are not in their hands. This reveals a dynamic where their autonomy is deeply limited. They may carry within them the desire to move, to shift, to step closer to you, yet the practical constraints they face are substantial. These are not minor obstacles, but binding responsibilities and structures that cannot simply be cast aside. It is precisely this entanglement that slows their steps, even as their heart leans toward you. That is why the greatest desire within this person right now is to create and hold their own wealth, not only in terms of money, but also in the sense of mastering their resources, having the freedom to make decisions, and no longer being dependent on anyone else. Only when they reach that point, when they truly establish control over what sustains them, can they break free from the restraints that bind them, reclaim their sense of freedom, and only then will they feel able to move toward you, to speak the words they have long held back, and to finally deliver to you the message they have been carrying in silence. Once they gain mastery over their own resources, those binding contracts will no longer be unyielding walls, but matters that can be negotiated, adjusted, or even ended according to their will. For those caught within the framework of marriage, having financial independence would grant them far greater power to shape the future of that relationship, including the decision of whether to continue it or to bring it to an end. If this person is indeed within a marriage, ending it is not simply a matter of emotions or love. It involves the division of assets, the ownership of property, and the negotiation of significant material values. And here lies the pivotal point. If they cannot secure ownership, or if they cannot hold firmly to their share of what is rightfully theirs, then stepping out of that bond would leave them in an extremely disadvantageous position, one that could strip them of security and stability at the very moment they most need strength. Similarly, if what binds them is a work contract, they know they must first establish a financial foundation strong enough that even if that contract were to be canceled, they would still be able to generate income and sustain their life without collapse. In other words, only when they can firmly stand on their own financial feet, no longer tethered to resources controlled by others, will the path toward you truly open. At that point, ending a contract or releasing themselves from old commitments will no longer appear as insurmountable walls, but rather as inevitable steps that clear the way for them to come closer to you. Therefore, the matter of whether they cancel this contract or how they handle it in the near future stands as the key issue that determines whether this person can seize authority over their own life. And whether or not they manage to claim that authority becomes the very core solution for the relationship between the two of you. I feel with great clarity that this is the central point, the truth the cards are illuminating without ambiguity. For those of you who chose pile 2, it is highly possible that the other person is already in a marriage, or that they are bound by a social role, a duty, or a responsibility that holds significant weight. If they were to disregard the obligations and terms of this contract, they would find themselves staring into a future where maintaining their livelihood would become exceedingly difficult. This is why, deep within, they carry a burning desire to take control of this matter. Because if they are not the one in command, if they do not hold the reins of the situation, but merely speak the words that they want to end or cancel the agreement, then what awaits them is a life thrown into instability, a reality where they cannot sustain the life they currently know. In other words, they themselves would not be able to uphold their present existence. And so, the very first thing they must do is to see clearly, to gain full awareness of the terrain ahead, and to lay out a concrete plan for the road before them, step by step, so that when the time comes, they will be able to act with strength and certainty. I do not sense within them any hesitation, nor the desire to avoid or escape. There is nothing in their energy that suggests they do not want to act, or that they feel incapable of doing so. On the contrary, what comes through very strongly is a sharp clarity of mind, a keen awareness. They know that they must determine their path with certainty, that they must lay out a plan and proceed with careful, deliberate steps. What I see here is not confusion, not an inability to envision the future, but simply the recognition that, at this present moment, they are not yet in a position to hold complete authority or to fully control the situation. And yet, within them is a firm will, a quiet but unwavering determination that they will claim that power and move forward. This is like a plan, a strategy that has been gestating within them, not in the sense of scheming or manipulation, but in the sense of being thoroughly prepared. They're observing everything with calm, steady eyes, weighing each step carefully so that when the moment arrives, their actions will be precise, confident, and undeniable. I feel with great intensity that this is the message they wish to communicate to you at this time. And now I will set aside the reading of their side for a moment and turn to the perspective that speaks to you. Your card now rests within the chamber of the scythe, the place that signifies decisive choices, the act of severing, or the moment of creating a sharp turning point along this journey. The scythe card is one that speaks of important decisions, of cutting away, of endings, of resolutely severing ties with something that no longer serves. When looking at this card, many of you may immediately think that the other person wants to cut ties with you, or that they intend to make a decisive choice that directly concerns your connection. And because of that, it is natural that some of you may feel fear, anxiety, or unease when hearing this message. But I want you to receive this with a calm heart, without panic, because its meaning runs deeper, broader, and more profound than what appears on the surface. Here, your card emerges within the chamber of the scythe. This is the seat of energy connected to choices, to the act of cutting away. What is striking is that when I gaze upon the scythe, I see it connect directly to the cross, the card of destiny, of fate, of what is divinely arranged, of karmic ties that run deep. From the very beginning of this reading, I mentioned that there was one particular thread that drew my attention, and it is this very connection. The two cards link together with unmistakable clarity, and as I trace the flow of the spread, I see that this connection begins with you. That is why I immediately sensed its gravity, why I could not look away from its importance. From you, a bond, a thread that can rightly be called destiny itself, extends outward and entwines with the other person. This link between the two of you is not something as simple or as ordinary as affection or mere acquaintance. It carries the weight and resonance of fate itself, a karmic tie that has stretched from before, something that the two of you have carried into this lifetime. It feels as if, from the very first moment your paths crossed, there was already an unseen thread binding you, an invisible hand guiding the steps that brought you together, weaving the two of you into each other's journeys. This is why the cards insist on showing this tie, why the message emerges not only as a decision or a severing, but as a revelation of the karmic and fated nature of what lies between you. The cross card, symbol of destiny and of the binding threads of fate, now finds itself placed within the chamber of the whip. This is the realm that speaks of trials, of clashes, of conflicts, and of the difficult lessons one must face and endure. What this reveals is that the very karmic bond that ties you and this person so profoundly has, in this present moment, become the force that compels them to make crucial decisions. It is no longer a connection meant only to be felt or experienced in the background. It has shifted into a circumstance that demands action, that requires choices, that insists they confront even intense emotional upheavals in order to move forward. Looking deeper, I see that the whip itself lies within the chamber of the lily. The lily carries the essence of pure love, of elevated beauty and dignity, but it also holds within it undertones of physical attraction, of sexual magnetism, of deeply stirring passion. This reveals that the bond between the two of you is one of duality. It holds both spiritual depth and soulful resonance, and at the same time it burns with powerful emotional and physical allure. It is a connection that is both beautiful and challenging, both a sanctuary and a crucible. It draws the two of you together through purity and grace, yet also tests you with desire and intensity, demanding that both sides navigate the balance between sacred love and earthly passion. Here, the message is clear. Your relationship is not a simple or fleeting tie. It is something that touches the soul, awakens destiny, and stirs the body and heart alike. It is both the gift of fate and the trial of fate, a connection radiant with beauty and depth, yet edged with lessons that can only be learned through struggle, decision, and the willingness to embrace both the light and the shadows within it. Continuing to trace the chain of connections, the lily now rests within the chamber of the birds. The birds symbolize communication, conversations, the exchange of messages, and at times they also speak of news, rumors, restless thoughts, or fluctuations within the mind. And then, moving even further along, the birds are found within the chamber of the bear, the card of strength, of authority, of protection, but also of control, possessiveness, and the pressure of power within relationships. All of these interwoven threads form a single, unfolding story, from decision to destiny, to challenge, to love, to communication, and finally to power. This sequence is not a random scattering of cards, but rather a clear message that every element surrounding this connection is tightly bound together, each link inseparable from the next, and each link drawing the two of you closer to that inevitable point where you must face the truth and make a decisive choice. As the spread continues to unfold, the energy becomes clear. For your counterpart, the feelings they have developed for you seem to have arisen outside of any plan, beyond anything they had anticipated or prepared for. They are sending the message that their affection for you came suddenly, unexpectedly, without design, almost as though it were orchestrated by fate itself. It feels like a destined encounter, or perhaps even a reunion that carries layers of meaning, surfacing with a sense of inevitability. In their perception, this meeting stands as a milestone, an event they never imagined would occur, one that leaves them with the profound impression of being guided, even pushed forward, by the hand of destiny. This becomes all the more remarkable when we consider the true nature of this person, someone who is inherently calm, rational, and clear-headed. They belong to the type who rarely let emotions, love, or fleeting attractions alter the course of their entire life path. In the past, they have never experienced a relationship or emotional entanglement capable of shaking the solid foundation they had so carefully built for themselves. Their life has always been guided by reason, their decisions made from logical analysis and a steady construction of security, rather than impulsive acts or reckless choices born out of passion. They are not the kind to be swept away simply by infatuation. Their past experiences, even those related to matters of the heart, bear this out clearly. They have always known how to feel naturally, how to like someone, how to recognize attraction. Yet they never allowed themselves to be consumed by it to the point of losing control. Even when they found themselves in delicate, complicated situations, for instance, feeling drawn to someone who was already committed, or being in a relationship themselves while feeling a sudden attraction to another, they still possess the ability to face reality head-on, to clearly perceive the limits, and to consciously restrain themselves. In such moments, their inner voice would firmly say, "That person is truly wonderful, I like them very much, but they already have a partner, or I am already in a relationship, so I should not go further." They understood that even if there was genuine affection, it could not blossom, and they chose to stop, to preserve the order of things, to walk the path of reason instead of chasing after emotion. All along, they have lived by this principle, allowing themselves to feel but knowing when to stop, allowing themselves to be moved yet still holding control, because they believe that this is how they protect themselves and safeguard what they have built. It is this deep-seated discipline, this clarity of mind and self-restraint that has defined their choices, their relationships, and the way they navigate the complexities of love and life. And yet this time, standing before you, all of those principles that once seemed immovable, unshakable, now begin to tremble. This is a person who, when faced with a complicated matter of the heart, would ordinarily turn to reason and tell themselves, it is better to stop, better to let go, and then truly follow through. In the past, they always knew how to keep their emotions under control, to let logic lead the way, to remain grounded in clarity and practicality without allowing themselves to be swept away by the force of passion. Their life, before crossing paths with you, was built upon this very foundation, a way of living in which love and feelings were carefully contained within boundaries, never exceeding the limits they themselves had drawn. They likely believed this would continue to be their path, the safest and most reasonable way to live. But then, when they encountered you, everything shifted. They discovered that the control over their emotions, something they had always mastered with ease, suddenly slipped from their grasp. What once was effortless became difficult, and soon after, impossible. They found themselves startled, even unsettled, at the realization that they could no longer quiet their heart, no longer extinguish the growing fire of feelings that only seemed to intensify with time. This was something they had never foreseen, a situation utterly different from the way they had ever experienced love before. What they want to express is that you are the one who has stirred within them emotions so powerful, so overwhelming, that their very capacity for restraint and reason has been shattered. You are the one who has awakened a force of feeling so compelling, so insistent, that it eclipses logic itself, leaving even them astonished at how powerless they are before it. This is a person who has always been skilled at concealing what lies beneath, someone who knows how to keep a calm and composed exterior, rarely revealing the deeper layers of their emotions. With you as well, they have never openly displayed the true intensity of their feelings. And so, it is only natural that you may have wondered at times what they are truly thinking, what they are truly feeling. Perhaps you have even seen them as someone deeply realistic, the kind who believes that if something cannot happen, then it is better not to force it. You may have thought of them as someone who easily accepts reality and lets go. Yet in truth, deep inside, they are anything but settled. They are confused, conflicted, and deeply stirred. This comes through very clearly in the reading, and it is precisely the message they long to send to you now. When I turn to look at matters of the heart, I see that the energy of their love for you is situated in the chamber of number 3. This is the space that speaks of beginnings full of light, of feelings that are fresh, pure, and tender, of relationships nurtured by sincerity and truth. For them, the affection they hold for you feels like a radiant light, something beautiful and life-affirming that illuminates their world. It is no longer about using reason to control or keeping feelings within safe boundaries. Instead, it has become an emotion fierce and unrestrained, direct and unwavering, one that reaches out toward you with undeniable force. Within this chamber of number 3, the heart card has appeared, the very emblem of love itself. And when I follow the thread of this card further, I find it linked to the clover, a card of rare fortune, of joy, of opportunities that are fleeting and precious. This reveals that to them, you are not only love, you are also a blessing, a stroke of unexpected luck, a gift of fate that they deeply cherish. You are a serendipitous encounter they did not foresee, a rare chance they do not want to squander or lose. In their eyes, you are both the beating heart and the lucky charm, both love and miracle, both desire and grace, all wrapped into one presence that has profoundly altered their inner world. This person carries within their heart a tender sense of joy found in the small, simple moments of life, those little things that, though modest, hold immense value. And even though they are fully aware that between the two of you exists a situation that feels immovable, a circumstance in which they themselves cannot immediately take action or change the course of events, they cannot deny that the bond you share originates from an encounter that bears the essence of destiny. Deep within, they feel with striking clarity that your appearance in their life was never a coincidence, and because of that, even though reason tells them this is a circumstance heavily influenced by external factors, they still nurture a faint but unwavering hope that from this fated meeting, some turning point might eventually unfold. They are acutely conscious that everything they have built throughout their life, the achievements, the secure foundations, the stability they have striven tirelessly to create has now, in an ironic twist, become part of the barrier that separates the two of you. It has turned into an obstacle, a wall that makes it difficult for them to move forward with ease. And because their nature tends to lean strongly toward practicality and realism, their mind continues to process this in a logical manner, reasoning that if they can maintain stability, if they can preserve the safety and abundance of their current life, then and only then might they be able to truly take control of the situation. And yet, alongside that calm, rational, and practical way of thinking, there exists a current of emotion so powerful toward you that it overwhelms them, a tide of feeling they cannot control no matter how much they try. It is precisely this intensity that makes them, someone who rarely places faith in the intangible, in notions of fate or unseen forces, suddenly begin to believe that the bond between you and them might in fact be tied together by an invisible thread, guided by a mysterious hand of destiny, or perhaps even by the divine itself. Within them stirs a quiet yet fervent anticipation that someday, at some unexpected moment, a miraculous shift, a turning point of profound significance, will appear, altering the course of everything and drawing the two of you closer than ever before. When the card of the four-leaf clover reveals itself, it falls into the house of the anchor, a placement that speaks of endurance, steadfastness, and ties that are rooted so deeply they cannot easily be moved or undone. This placement makes it clear that their feelings for you are unwavering, immutable, and capable of being shaken no matter what turbulence surrounds them. No matter how the outside world may shift or collapse, they continue to hold on to that resonance, that inner stirring for you, as something constant and true. And this realization astonishes them, because it stands in stark contrast to the person they have always known themselves to be, a person skilled at maintaining control, at letting go when the time calls for it, at moving forward without hesitation. What they're experiencing now feels utterly unfamiliar, foreign to everything they thought they knew, yet at the same time it is something they neither want to erase nor are able to extinguish. This attachment, this emotional gravity that pulls them toward you, is extraordinary, unlike anything they have encountered before, and it leaves them simultaneously unsettled and deeply, irrevocably moved. This person is revealing something with striking clarity. The feelings they hold for you are something they simply cannot change, no matter what. Even though their reasoning has always told them that when faced with an obstacle, the wisest choice is to let go so that they may move forward more easily. In your case, that principle no longer applies. Ordinarily, they are the kind of person who, when confronted with difficulty, chooses the most practical route, the kind of person who, upon realizing that love is blocked by insurmountable walls, would tell themselves that the only sensible path is to release it, to walk away, because that is the way to make life easier and to keep themselves from falling into a hopeless standstill. Yet with you, every one of those rules, every one of those self-imposed principles seems to have crumbled. No matter how many obstacles arise, no matter how complicated or heavy the circumstances become, there is one truth they are utterly certain of. This feeling, this love, is unchangeable, and more than that, they have no desire to change it. This is the deep conviction, the unwavering faith they carry within their heart. Alongside that, within their emotions for you, I can see very clearly the trace of jealousy. They harbor within themselves a gnawing anxiety, a restless unease whenever they imagine you becoming close to someone else, whenever they picture you sharing warmth or intimacy with another while their own bond with you struggles to move forward. Even the mere thought of you being more affectionate, more connected to another person unsettles their heart and makes it restless. Their mind cannot find peace in such images. They are deeply afraid of the possibility that you might turn your gaze towards someone else, especially during those moments when they themselves are not yet able to step closer to you, when circumstances prevent them from bridging the gap. This fear, this jealousy, is woven tightly into the very fabric of their feelings, and it reveals just how profoundly and intensely they are bound to you. Moreover, there is yet another layer within them. They do not want you to be with someone they perceive as superior to themselves, someone with higher status, a more polished reputation, or a career and income that surpass their own. The thought that you might be drawn to such a person, or that you could one day leave them to be with someone like that, is something they find almost unbearable to accept. This is not merely ordinary jealousy born of affection. It also carries with it a deeply ingrained sense of pride, an intense self-regard that refuses to be overshadowed. This person is, by nature, someone with great ambition. And this ambition is not confined solely to the sphere of your relationship. It extends to the entirety of their life. They are not the kind of soul who wishes to remain in the same place forever, nor are they content with their current position or level of income. Within the depths of their being lies a restless desire to move further, to climb higher, to attain greater recognition, to secure achievements that will define them on a larger scale. It is this powerful ambition, intertwined with the unwavering love they feel for you, that now stands as a double force propelling them forward. Together, these twin currents, the unshakable devotion they hold for you and the relentless drive to rise higher, form the momentum that urges them on, compelling them to keep walking even though the road ahead may be filled with countless trials and obstacles. This combination of love and ambition burns within them like a steady flame, guiding their every step and giving meaning to their perseverance. That is why I can sense so clearly that for all these years, this person has steadfastly walked the path of a realist, someone who places reason and rationality above all else. They have long been accustomed to using logic to control everything, to keeping themselves within the boundaries of safety, and to believing firmly that this was the best way to live. Yet your appearance shattered that once unshakable principle. You stirred their emotions in a way so powerful, so profound, that it shook them at the very core, something they never anticipated, something that left them bewildered, disoriented, and struggling to find their footing. And still, amidst that confusion, one truth resounds with certainty within them. These feelings they hold for you cannot be altered, and they have no intention of abandoning them. Because of this, there is now a new resolve taking root within them, a determination to secure wealth, abundance, and above all, the power to take control into their own hands. They yearn to place themselves in a position where they can steer everything toward the outcomes most favorable to them, and once they attain that state, they desire to have it all: success, influence, and you. The love they feel for you is not separate from that longing for possession. It is intertwined with their ambition, woven into their hunger to grasp and hold on to what they desire. Within them, this yearning is not merely an emotion, but a crystallized goal, a vision they hold with clarity. Even if they cannot yet map out the entire path that leads there, they are quietly, persistently, and meticulously calculating each step, much like a hunter waiting in patience, biding their time for the perfect moment to strike and claim what they believe is destined to be theirs. And there is yet another truth they long to reveal: they find you utterly endearing. This feeling arises not from fleeting imagination, but from their very own observation and experience of being with you. They themselves are someone intelligent, sharp-minded, capable of handling matters with skill and efficiency. Perhaps at this very moment they have not yet reached the pinnacle of their career or climbed to the very heights of power and success, but in their essence lies the undeniable potential of a person who, with enough determination, can ascend to higher rungs and go further than most. Within them burns a fierce ambition, not only for work, money, or status, but also in the way they approach relationships, in the way they choose whom to allow into the most intimate parts of their life. Because of this, when they envision their ideal life partner, they dream of someone who can grow alongside them, someone who can elevate their worth together with them, someone who will walk hand in hand as they both rise higher. They long for a companion who not only inspires them to become a better version of themselves, but also accepts their support, their drive, their strength, allowing them to uplift and empower that person in return. And in their eyes, you embody every single one of those qualities. You are the one who stirs their heart, the one who awakens their yearning to reach greater heights, the one who compels them to both protect and pursue. To them, you are at once the source of tender affection and the very spark of their ambition, a rare and precious presence who makes them want not only to love, but also to conquer, to hold, and to never let go. In their thoughts, this person is always drawn toward the image of a life partner who can walk beside them in both work and personal growth. They long for a relationship where the two of you can discuss matters of career and ambition as equals, where you can share the desire to conquer new challenges, where both can push each other forward in constant progress, engaging in healthy competition while also lifting one another higher. In their mind, the ideal partner is someone who can stand shoulder to shoulder with them in pursuit of great goals, someone with whom they can not only converse, but also strategize, plan, and together set their sights on new summits to climb. Yet when it comes to you, they do not place you squarely into that rational mold of a partner who competes and sharpens them in the same way. This is not to say they consider you unworthy or incapable of walking alongside them. Rather, in you they perceive something entirely different, something that moves their heart in a softer, gentler way. What they feel from you is trust, the quiet assurance that you are willing to stay by their side as a steady anchor, a presence who watches over them and supports them in every step they take. The way you believe in them, the way you lean on them, the way you allow them to be your source of strength, these things strike them deeply, making them find you irresistibly endearing and profoundly precious. This is not the cool, logical evaluation they are so accustomed to. It is a stirring born from the heart itself, an instinctive feeling of wanting to protect you, to hold on to you, and to ensure you remain close. And it is precisely this that comes to them as such a profound surprise. For they never imagined they would love someone in this way, and even less did they ever think that the feelings they hold for you could deepen to such an extent that it would become something immovable, something unchangeable within the course of their life. They are astonished to realize how much they truly love you, to recognize that this love has grown far beyond anything governed by the rational standards they had once set for themselves. It is a love that surpasses all logic, all rules they thought they could rely upon. Looking deeper into their inner world, I can see clearly that two distinct sides coexist within them. On one hand, there is a current of genuine emotion, raw, powerful, ready to be stirred by you at any moment. On the other hand, There remains the rational, pragmatic self that has been shaped over years, the one that always calculates carefully, that prioritizes efficiency, logic, and reason above all else. These two aspects do not cancel one another out. Instead, they intertwine and overlap, creating a complexity that makes this person difficult to read, sometimes unpredictable, and often hard to fully grasp. I sense strongly that compared to the person in pile 1, your counterpart here belongs to a very different type. Their way of thinking, of acting, and of loving follows a path of its own. And yet, it is precisely this fusion of reason and feeling, of logic interwoven with passion, that creates a portrait of extraordinary depth within their inner being. To truly understand the emotions they carry for you, I feel compelled to draw more cards, to listen more intently to what their heart is trying to reveal. And as I open the spread, the first card that appears is the Two of Cups, and right beside it lies death. Then, let me draw one more to bring further clarity. And just as I had sensed from the very beginning, the card that turns up speaks directly to the essence of this person, the devil. On the surface, you may not realize it, or perhaps they never outwardly reveal it, but in truth they have already become someone spellbound by you, utterly captivated, drawn in, and bound tightly within your presence. The Two of Cups paired with the devil speaks of a connection that is not only rooted in deep, heartfelt emotion, but also carries the weight of attachment, of desire, of passion so consuming and unrelenting that it refuses to release its hold. And here, death does not appear as a cold ending, but rather as the hunger for rebirth, the yearning to begin again, to strip away all that once defined them and reset themselves entirely from zero. Why? Because they have become a prisoner of your heart, caught in the whirlpool of emotions you stir within them, unable to return to the person they once were. When I drew a clarifying card for death, what emerged was the Eight of Pentacles. Its image reveals with absolute clarity their longing to dismantle everything they have so carefully constructed until now, from their logical lifestyle, their rigid principles, to the values they once believed would define them for life, in order to start anew. The Eight of Pentacles here embodies the tireless process of learning, of restructuring, of patiently and deliberately building a fresh foundation. And they are driven to do this because of you. This is a powerful affirmation, a declaration that you are the very force compelling them to desire a complete transformation, the catalyst that makes them want to reforge their entire life, piece by piece, around a new beginning in which you are the central flame that guides their every effort. Furthermore, the Two of Cups is not merely a card of love, it is an acknowledgement that two hearts are beating in unison. Whether the two of you are truly together in the physical sense or still dwelling only within the realm of feeling, deep within themselves they have already recognized that what exists between you is a mutual bond, a love that flows in both directions. It is not only their own heart that reaches out, they can feel, with unmistakable certainty, that you two hold feelings for them. And it is this realization that intensifies their desire to keep you close, that magnifies their longing to never let you slip away. The devil, once again, speaks with powerful clarity of the emotions they harbor for you, the passion that consumes, the obsession that binds, the hunger to possess, and the waves of jealousy that overwhelm. In the past, when they encountered a relationship that proved too difficult, they could easily let reason take the lead, saying to themselves, if it is too hard, then let it go. But with you, they cannot do that. They will not, and in truth, they cannot walk away. That is why feelings they so rarely expose, jealousy, insecurity, the sharp ache at the thought of you belonging to someone else, have now risen to the surface with undeniable force. This reveals that you have dismantled every defense they once held, that you have broken through the walls of logic and control which defined them for so long. They are no longer the purely rational, practical person they once believed themselves to be. Instead, they have become someone who now carries within both the burning desire to possess and the profound yearning to be reborn, transformed entirely by the power of this love. Truly, this person has been utterly claimed by you, as though they have fallen into a love so deeply etched, so hauntingly imprinted, that it refuses to fade away. I am not even sure if the phrase "a love engraved upon the heart" is enough to capture its entirety, for what they feel is that they have been wholly consumed, their soul completely taken over by you, leaving nothing untouched. To such an extent that even they themselves are astonished when they suddenly discover within that they know jealousy, and not just mild jealousy, but jealousy so fierce, so profound, that they are left questioning, is this what jealousy feels like? Is this that consuming sensation people speak of? That rush of emotion surges through them, awakening for the first time in their life the desire to break down everything carefully constructed by logic, to reach for that inner reset, to press the button that would allow them to start all over again, to remake themselves entirely anew. For all these years, they have lived according to the laws of reason, guided by rationality, and by following this path they have indeed achieved certain results. That way of living was never wrong. It brought them stability, success, a comfortable and secure life. Without you, they could have continued along that same road, and life would still have been good. They would have remained successful, accomplished, admired, surrounded by all that the world considers enviable. And yet, such a life would only have been a perfect picture, polished on the outside, but empty at its core, a life devoid of soul, a life in which the heart no longer knew how to tremble, no longer knew how to beat wildly with the rawness of love. And it is this realization, brought on by you, that leaves them both shaken and alive in a way they never thought possible. Your presence has changed everything. You have made them, for the very first time in their life, feel with piercing clarity what it truly means for a heart to tremble for someone. The sensation is so overwhelming that they have come to realize if they continue living as they always have, without change, allowing this connection to remain stagnant, they would be forfeiting one of life's greatest treasures, something that no wealth, no triumph, no worldly success could ever replace. This is a person who has always been accustomed to calculating everything in the way of simple equations, of 1 + 1 = 2, someone used to analyzing, measuring, weighing every option to find what appears to be the most reasonable, the most rational choice. If guided only by logic, they would select the safe route, the path everyone else would deem correct. And yet, when they shift their perspective, when they begin to look at life from a more profound, more philosophical angle, they find themselves asking, what is it that truly makes a life rich? What is it that lends real value to the human journey? And in that quiet questioning, they discover the answer. It is found in how many times the heart has been stirred and in how deeply it has been moved. In this moment, they understand with startling clarity that there are indeed choices that are rational and logical, but such choices will never measure up to the path that sets the heart ablaze, that allows one to live each moment fully, with passion coursing through the veins. Though there may be other roads that make sense, and it is not to say that those paths are wrong, when weighing the two against each other. They have come to realize that the world unfolding before them when they step onto the path that makes their heart truly resonate carries an entirely different hue, a vision of the future painted in colors that no calculation, no formula could ever create. That feeling, that profound stirring at the sight of such a future, stands in stark contrast to a life dictated purely by reason's hand. And this is why I can see so clearly that what makes life truly abundant, what gives it depth, is precisely the question, how many times has the heart been moved, and how powerfully? And this person, yes, this very person has found their answer. They now know, without doubt, what it means to feel the true trembling of the heart. Once they have lived through that moment, once they have tasted that awakening of the heart, there is no way for them to return to the life they once knew. This is a person who until now has only known how to move forward through reason, through principles, through steady, carefully measured steps. And so, even though their emotions now pull them toward the place where their heart beats the loudest, they will still choose to move ahead by seizing control, by taking the initiative. It will not be a reckless leap, not a choice born of impulse, but a structured plan, a path they lay out with intention, in order to restart everything and align it with what their heart truly longs for. They want to reset their life, but they will do so quietly, patiently, and with calculated persistence, step by step, regaining mastery over the situation as they go. I can sense that they will move toward you, and they will do so with perseverance, not hastily, but steadily, in a way that ensures each step is secure. If you are the one who is waiting, then waiting is not necessarily a poor choice. And yet, what matters most is the length of that waiting, for that is something that depends entirely on each individual's capacity. Because this is someone who rarely expresses their emotions openly, who seldom voices what they are truly thinking or feeling, and it is precisely this trait that makes waiting for them so difficult. When there are no affirmations spoken aloud, no clear gestures of affection revealed, the motivation to continue waiting can quietly erode, fading little by little with time. If you choose to wait, you must prepare yourself with a steadfast mindset, to wait without expecting immediate words of affection, to wait in the silence they often keep, and to wait with the faith that, even in that quiet, they are still moving, still acting in their own hidden way. Without that preparation, sustaining the motivation to wait will be difficult, and the spirit of patience may wither. Perhaps this is the very moment to seek guidance from the cards, to understand what should be done during such a time of uncertainty. And then, 2 cards appeared. As I turned them over, I was truly struck. The first was soulmate. This makes it unmistakably clear that between the two of you exists a rare and extraordinary bond, a connection written into the fabric of destiny itself. The presence of this card confirms that the link binding you together is not by chance, but rather part of a spiritual journey, a meeting arranged by fate, a tie that transcends ordinary circumstance. Alongside it came the second card, unrequited love. This is a fascinating combination, for it reveals that it is precisely because the two of you are soulmates that emotions of this kind arise so easily. In a bond as profound as this, it is not always possible for both to feel and express love in equal measure at the same time. There will be phases in which you feel you are the one who loves more, or moments where you believe this connection exists only on your side. But that is not the whole truth. It is not the final reality. Rather, it is part of the challenges, the lessons, the intricate tests that soulmate connections often bring when two destined souls encounter one another. These moments of imbalance are not signs of absence, but invitations to growth, reminders that even in silence, even in longing, the thread of fate continues to weave its story between you. When soulmates appear in each other's lives, there are always tests to be faced, trials set like sacred tasks, written by the soul long before the moment of reunion. This is why you may sometimes feel as though you are caught in a one-sided love, or believe that you alone are the one holding all the feelings. The card reveals that it is not because you are mistaken or living in illusion, but because this thread of soul connection moves in cycles, carrying phases and rhythms that cause emotions to rise and fall, creating the sensation of imbalance. The message here is for you to understand that if you find yourself loving more, or if you sense that the other has not been clear in their response, this stems from the very nature of the soulmate bond. It is a relationship that, at times, demands passage through trials, even through doubt and questioning, before it can reach true harmony. The question lies not in whether the bond is real, but in the choice you must make. Will you walk through this stage, or will you turn away now, leaving the lesson unfinished? If you choose to move forward, what lies ahead could very well be a different world, a space where the connection between the two of you is felt more deeply, expressed more openly, where love is no longer clouded by uncertainty. The card reminds you that you stand at the very heart of this journey, and the choices you make in this moment will shape the path that both of you must follow. This is a pivotal point, a crossroads at which destiny pauses, waiting for your decision before the story continues to unfold. Between the two of you, I can sense with clarity that it is not only your counterpart, but you as well who have at times asked yourself, am I the one who loves more? There may even have been moments when you considered letting go. At the same time, your counterpart is also in a stage where they must face and overcome a barrier, a challenge of their own, before they can move forward in a completely different direction than the one they have known until now. What you both share is this: you are each standing before a hill that must be climbed, and only once you have crossed it will you be able to see the world that awaits on the other side, a world that, from where you stand now, no matter how hard you try, remains hidden from view. This is why whether this relationship transforms or not depends profoundly on the choices each of you makes. Will you overcome your own lessons, your own trials, and will they be able to transcend theirs? Only then will the path forward reveal itself. The message here emphasizes that the key does not lie in what you wish your counterpart would do, nor even in what you imagine this relationship might become. Instead, the key lies in what you want your own life to look like, in the direction you wish your soul to take. It is your choice for your own life that will ultimately open the way forward for both of you. And with that, I will close the reading for those of you who chose pile 2. If there is something in today's message that brings a sense of calm to your heart, or stirs within you a thought, a feeling, a quiet realization, leave behind a small sign, a simple symbol, or a few words of sharing. Even the gentlest trace is enough for me to know that the message from the universe has found the soul it was meant to reach. Thank you deeply for walking with me all the way to the end of this reading. I look forward to meeting you again in the next spreads to come. Hello to those who chose pile 3. Thank you for patiently waiting, and now I will begin the reading for everyone who has selected this pile. I hope that through this spread, you will receive healing, new realizations, and moments filled with warmth and love. With the theme being what is happening in their heart, when I look at the overall spread, what I sense is that within your person's heart, you are surrounded by many cards radiating bright and warm energy. The spread seems to suggest that they are placing around you a protective circle, as though they want to shield you from sadness, from negative energies, or from painful experiences. Perhaps in real life, you may have gone through, or are going through, situations that have brought you sorrow, loss, or unhappiness. Yet in their heart, the strongest desire they hold is to protect and shelter you, to make sure you are not swept into suffering or weighed down by hardship. That feeling of protection comes across in a very vivid and powerful way through the arrangement of the cards. Furthermore, the position of the card that represents you is also quite special. It appears in the House of Bouquets, which symbolizes blessings, gifts, appreciation, and love. This detail reinforces the sense that this person harbors deep, meaningful emotions for you, seeing you as something precious and cherished. It is an arrangement that clearly expresses love, tender care, and the wish to bring goodness and joy into your life. On the emotional and spiritual level, there is no true distance or separation between the two of you. Perhaps in your everyday reality, in the tangible aspects such as communication, messaging, or meeting in person, there may at times be some misalignment, moments where your rhythms do not match, or times when things feel out of sync. Yet that does not mean that the feelings, the emotions, or the deeper connection within the two of you are out of alignment. On the contrary, the energy here clearly shows a certain harmony, as though there exists between you a binding thread, firm and unbreakable, not easily torn apart. I can sense very strongly that your person seems to be carrying within their heart a wish, almost like a prayer, dedicated to you. This energy comes through with great intensity, as if they are yearning and pleading from the depths of their being, "Please do not leave me. Please do not walk away from my life." This feeling arises with undeniable clarity from the very card that represents them, a vibration so distinct that the moment I laid eyes on it, the emotional frequency resonated immediately and unmistakably. And now let us move into the more detailed reading, beginning with the position of the cards that fall on their side. The card symbolizing your person is placed in the House of the Bear. The bear is a card rich in meaning, often associated with strength, authority, and power. It may indicate that this individual holds a certain standing in society, or that their social position is higher than yours. It may also suggest that this person embodies a figure of weight and influence, someone with a strong voice, or someone whose profession requires credibility, trust, and high responsibility. Within the realm of career, the bear sometimes points to roles such as a lawyer, someone working within the judicial or legal system, or professions that demand decisiveness, leadership, and authority. Beyond the professional interpretation, the bear frequently evokes the image of a mature man, older, seasoned, experienced, and steadfast. Therefore, there is a strong possibility that, in relation to you, this individual is indeed older in age. And if not older in years, then their role, their career, or their breadth of life experience places them in a higher standing compared to you. This points to a relationship dynamic colored by the essence of guide and follower, or protector and the one being protected, where they assume the role of strength, stability, and support, and you are held within that protective embrace. The bear card has fallen into the House of the Cross. The cross is a card that carries profound meanings of destiny, mission, burdens that must be carried, or trials that one must inevitably face. When the bear, the symbol of power, authority, and position, finds itself placed within the House of the Cross, it speaks very clearly of a person who is shouldering immense responsibilities directly tied to their role and their standing. It is not merely about possessing power or status, it is also about being bound by that very role, compelled to carry obligations that are far from easy to bear. This could be responsibility toward family, obligations in career, or perhaps a promise, a mission, a duty that they cannot abandon. And this explains, at least in part, why they carry within their heart such a deep fear of losing you, because alongside their feelings for you, they are also trapped within a framework of commitments and duties that they feel they must protect, uphold, and preserve. This person is showing very clearly that everything unfolding around them, every binding tie, every obstacle they are facing, stems directly from the very position and role they currently hold. Their struggles and burdens are inseparably linked with their status, with the mantle of responsibility that rests upon their shoulders. Now let us move further into the reading to explore this in greater depth. The cross itself has appeared in the House of the Lily. The lily carries its own spectrum of meanings. It often points to purity, wisdom, maturity, legacy, and sometimes even matters connected to family or morality. Yet here, the lily is tied closely to the mountain card. And this linkage paints a vivid picture. This person is bearing a weight, a duty, or a mission of some kind, and this very mission has become the obstacle, the looming mountain that blocks their path. I begin to wonder, what is this lily really trying to indicate here? Is it pointing to a matter of family lineage, of moral codes, of generational duty? Is it hinting at expectations of purity, integrity, or a legacy that must be honored? Whatever it is, the lily's connection to the mountain makes it clear that their sense of responsibility, whether rooted in family, tradition, or a higher calling, has turned into a formidable challenge, something standing firmly in their way. It becomes not just a duty they must fulfill, but a trial that tests both their strength and their devotion. The cards suggest that while their heart yearns for freedom, love, and connection, their path is overshadowed by this heavy, immovable weight, a sacred yet burdensome task they feel destined to carry. To analyze this more deeply, I look closely at this particular combination. The mountain represents obstacles, barriers that stand tall and immovable, and here it is directly linked with the lily, a card layered with multiple meanings. When I continued tracing the spread, I noticed that in that same direction appears the ring, symbolizing contracts, bonds, and commitments. The story that unfolds is quite clear. Your person not only carries social status and holds a significant position, but along with that, they are burdened with responsibilities, and specifically in relation to you. Those very obligations that arise from their role and standing become an even greater barrier in the bond you share. Returning to the lily, this card brings with it two primary meanings. The first is pure, innocent love, untainted and sincere. The second points toward intimacy, physical closeness, and deep sensual connection. Therefore, it is important to discern which meaning is being expressed here. In some contexts, the lily also extends into matters of family, lineage, or relationships with older figures. For this reason, if your person already has children, especially children who are still young, still dependent, then it is very possible that the lily here is directly pointing to that, highlighting their responsibilities toward their children. To gain clearer confirmation, I drew further cards from the tarot. The first that appeared was Temperance, a card of moderation, patience, harmony, and balance. It reveals that they are in a space where maintaining equilibrium between the many aspects of their life is not just desirable, but absolutely necessary. Then I drew another card, the Eight of Cups. At that moment, the picture became clearer. The combination of these two cards speaks to a situation where they are compelled to find ways to balance and regulate everything, and at times, they must accept walking away or setting aside something their heart deeply longs for, in order to shoulder greater responsibilities. It is as though their inner world is one of constant negotiation, where their yearning and desires must be weighed against duty, where love and longing sometimes have to be placed at a distance because obligations demand precedence. The Temperance card here urges them to find harmony in what feels divided, while the Eight of Cups paints the bittersweet picture of someone who, even with love in their heart, knows that sacrifice or temporary withdrawal is part of their path. This creates a profound emotional tension in them, where the pull of love and the weight of responsibility continuously test the strength of their spirit and their bond with you. That means, if they do have young children, then the responsibility toward their children is indeed part of the burden they carry, and it becomes one of the main reasons they cannot act freely according to their personal desires within this relationship. And if they do not have children, then the lily can still point to a family duty or a profound tie of some kind, something rooted in the need to protect, preserve, and sustain, that keeps them in a state of constant balance, where they must continually weigh personal longing against obligatory duty. What I see here is not at all that this person regards their children as an obstacle or a hindrance to this connection. On the contrary, it is quite the opposite. If they do have young children, that does not mean they see them as a blockage, but rather they fully understand that caring for them, arranging life in a way that ensures their stability, and safeguarding their well-being is an absolute priority. It is a great responsibility that they must fulfill first and foremost. They know this is of utmost importance, and it requires their devotion and energy. This truth radiates very clearly in the energy of the cards, the recognition that their role as a protector and caretaker stands at the center of their life, shaping the way they approach love, commitment, and connection. If your person does not have young children, then the meaning of the obstacle shifts into another dimension. They are caught in the ongoing struggle of having to balance you with other duties and responsibilities in their life, be it their career, their social standing, or the various burdens they are carrying. This constant need to balance, to harmonize two opposing poles, becomes a form of pressure in itself, an invisible barrier standing in the way of the natural flow and progression of your connection. When they speak of overcoming obstacles, it means reaching that point in time when they no longer have to strain themselves to maintain balance, when they no longer need to divide their strength and their hours between both sides. Only then will they truly feel the relationship as something free, unhindered, and unburdened by restraint. Therefore, if the lily in this context represents children, then it serves as a reminder that, in their mind, their children will always be the highest priority, the one that must be placed above all else. On the other hand, if it is not related to children, then the lily represents the necessity of reconciling, of balancing you with other obligations and responsibilities, and that very dynamic becomes the mountain they must climb, the obstacle they must conquer. In both interpretations, the message of the cards is the same. They believe that only when this burden of balance is lifted, or when it is properly resolved, can the barrier truly dissolve and no longer stand between you. Now, shifting over to read from your side of the spread, the card that represents you lies within the house of the bouquets. The bouquets is a card of gifts, blessings, celebrations, and the arrival of joy and beauty into life. This placement makes it abundantly clear that, in the eyes of your person, encountering you and falling in love with you is nothing less than a priceless gift that life itself has bestowed upon them. You are seen as a blessing, a grace, a radiant presence of goodness that they hold with deep gratitude in their heart. The star is the card of hope, dreams, divine guidance, and faith in the beauty that lies ahead. When the bouquets, the symbol of blessings, gifts, and gratitude, falls within the house of the star, the message becomes even more profound. It emphasizes that your presence in their life is not only a gift, but also a beacon of hope, a light that guides them forward, and a force that inspires them to strive toward a brighter future. In their eyes, you are the perfect fusion of blessing and hope. You are something rare and precious, something that inspires, uplifts, and nourishes their very faith in life itself. The message here is crystal clear. Within your person's heart, you are the embodiment of hope, the radiant light that illuminates their path and fills them with renewed strength to keep moving. And then we see the star appearing again, this time in the house of the letter. This placement is deeply meaningful. It speaks of a message, a desire to communicate, a yearning to express. What it conveys is that your person longs to send a message to you, to tell you outright that your presence in their life is both a treasured gift and a profound source of hope, something they hold with reverence and deep appreciation. They wish for you to know, unmistakably, that in their eyes you embody both the warmth of a precious gift and the guiding light of a star leading them through the darkness. It is as if the cards are echoing their innermost voice, whispering the truth that perhaps they cannot easily put into words. You are their blessing, their hope, their inspiration, and their light. From the perspective of house reading, I can sense very clearly that within this spread, you are surrounded by tender emotions of love, gratitude, and hope that the other person holds for you. It feels as though each card is forming a gentle circle of energy encasing you, a sacred boundary of warmth and care that embodies the way they cherish you. This is not merely about asking what they want to do or how they will act, but more about the pure expression of their heart, a way of letting you know, deeply and profoundly, just how much they truly love you. The essence of this spread speaks less about actions and more about emotions, less about decisions and more about affirmations of devotion, as if they wish for you to never doubt the depth of their feelings. However, when we shift the focus toward the aspect of what they want to do or the direction they might take next, a very practical element becomes apparent. The person in question is bound by their circumstances, by their position, their current life situation, and the external factors surrounding them. They carry a belief that these barriers cannot simply be dismantled by force or immediate choice, but rather must be eased through the natural course of time. For them, resolution lies not in sudden change, but in patience, in waiting for life itself to create the space for freedom. These obstacles might include the responsibilities of raising children if they still have young ones depending on them, or the need to reach a stage in which they no longer feel compelled to strain themselves, constantly balancing between you and the many obligations weighing on their shoulders. Yet, they are also acutely aware of reality. For example, a child growing older is not something that can happen within a single year, but instead is a long journey that unfolds only in alignment with the natural rhythm of life. This awareness of time, of inevitability, and of gradual progression defines their perspective and shapes the way they approach the future. Similarly, reaching a state where they no longer have to juggle too many burdens or where they can finally set down the weight they are carrying is not something they can accomplish right away, because it is tied directly to their current role and position in life. Only when circumstances allow, only when they truly feel they can withdraw or change without consequence, will these obstacles be fully dissolved. That is why they understand this is an issue that can only be unraveled gradually, with patience and time, rather than something that can be forced into a quick resolution. Yet, despite all of this, what stands out most vividly and consistently through the reading is the depth of their affection and the profound sense of reverence they hold for you. You are kept in their heart as something sacred, like a treasured gift and a source of hope, and they want you to know that even though time is needed for certain knots to loosen, the love they hold for you remains intact, unwavering, and carefully protected in a very special, irreplaceable place within their soul. Now, let us go deeper into the emotions they feel for you. In this spread, the card Heart, representing love, feelings, tenderness, the very essence of emotional connection, appears in the House of Garden. Garden is the card that symbolizes public spaces, open environments, gatherings, celebrations, occasions where many people come together, and communities where individuals connect. When the heart rests here, it reveals that the love and affection they carry for you is set within a context of connection, visibility, and presence in front of others. It suggests that their emotions are not confined to secrecy or hidden in solitude. Rather, their love is intertwined with a broader setting, as if it finds expression or grounding through moments shared in social spaces, through gatherings, through the energy of community and shared presence. It is as if their heart, in loving you, also yearns to place that love in the light of the world, to affirm it in an environment where connection flourishes and where feelings are not only personal, but also part of a larger fabric of belonging and togetherness. Next, I see that the card Garden appears in the House of Birds. Birds represent communication, conversations, exchanges, dialogues, and even the spreading of news or messages. When the garden, symbolizing community spaces, gatherings, and collective presence, resides here, it speaks of a desire to express, to voice, to share within a setting where many people are present. And what makes this even more significant is that the birds themselves appear in the house of the card that represents you. This combination conveys something very clear and undeniable. Within your person's heart, there is an immense longing to publicly declare their love for you, to speak it out, to pour it into words, and to let everyone know just how deeply they love you. The urge to voice this love is so strong that it overflows, saturating their energy field, almost as though they cannot contain or suppress the desire any longer. It is not a quiet or hidden affection. They dream of speaking it aloud, of affirming it before the eyes of others, of allowing the truth of their emotions to resonate in the open. Yet, when we look at reality, there are limits and barriers standing between you both. This relationship, for many, unfolds within boundaries shaped by circumstances, responsibilities, or external factors that restrict complete freedom. For some of you, even though you are in a romantic relationship, it still must be maintained with discretion, held delicately within a veil of privacy. For others, the bond has not yet taken the form of an official relationship, and yet the emotional depth and connection between you are already profoundly strong, almost undeniable. My sense is that many of you who chose this pile find yourselves in precisely this kind of situation. The love is vast, the attachment runs deep, but it has to be contained, guarded, held within certain limits rather than freely expressed in the open. Your person, even though they may not be able to openly declare to everyone that this is the one I love, still carries within them a longing, at the very least, to introduce you to those closest to them, their family, their friends, or people within their circle of trust. They may choose to present you under the role of a dear friend, someone very close and significant, a phrasing that does not directly state a romantic relationship, but still allows them to show, in a subtle yet meaningful way, the deep respect and value they place on you. In other words, even if they cannot openly acknowledge you with the title of lover, they still wish for the world around them, or at least the people closest to them, to know that there exists a special bond connecting the two of you. And I also sense that in reality, for some of you, this has already happened. You may have already been introduced by them in such a way, not formally as this is my partner, but as this is my friend, yet the care, the pride, and the warmth in their voice and manner carried an unmistakable nuance, one that others around could feel. A quiet yet powerful testament to the affection they hold for you. This is their way of both protecting the relationship and at the same time satisfying, at least partially, that deep desire to let the world know about you. To let the existence of your connection shimmer through even within the delicate balance of discretion and secrecy. For those of you who have chosen pile number 3, even if this person cannot openly declare that you are their official partner or attach a clear title to the relationship, they still have another way of showing their feelings and their bond with you. That way is by introducing you to the people around them, by telling others that the one they trust so deeply, the one they feel closest to and most connected with, is this wonderful person right here. This act becomes a subtle yet powerful way of filling the gap, of soothing that part of their emotions that longs to be expressed, but cannot be fully satisfied. And I can sense very strongly that they are demonstrating this with intensity, as though it is a vital part of how they love, how they connect, how they let their feelings manifest in a tangible form. Within their subconscious, there is also a deeply held desire to leave the place where they currently live or reside. And the destination they long to move toward is none other than you. All the signs point in that direction, to step away from where they are now, to seek closeness to you, and to settle beside you. What they want is a long-lasting peace, a sense of sanctuary, the feeling of finding their final stop in you. Perhaps the phrase to stop might sound unusual, but what it truly means here is their wish to anchor themselves to you, to establish a stable, enduring presence by your side. They are not looking for something fleeting or temporary, not to merely pass by and then leave, but to remain, to stay for a very long time, to build something lasting. This is the message they are conveying with striking clarity, a yearning to be near you, to belong in your space, and to allow this relationship to become their haven, their safe harbor, the place where their heart can finally rest. In addition, there is one point I must emphasize again, even though it has already been mentioned a few times, because it stands out so prominently in this reading. The ring, the card of commitment, promises, and binding connections, when it appears obstructed by the mountain, a symbol of obstacles and challenges, or when it falls within the house of the mice, which signify depletion, erosion. And the quiet gnawing away of stability, it paints a very telling picture. These placements reveal that, at present, this person may be entangled in a relationship or some form of binding agreement, perhaps a marriage or a long-term contract, or a commitment with another partner. And it is precisely these external factors, these obligations and formal ties, that are seeping into and influencing the dynamic between the two of you. It is not so much an issue that stems from the love or emotions between you both, but rather from the structures, agreements, and societal responsibilities that they have already taken on and are still bound to honor. Yet, when I look deeper into this person's heart, what comes through with absolute clarity is the way they place you in an extraordinarily special position within themselves. This is not a fleeting attraction or a surface-level fondness. No, what they feel for you is a profound reverence, a deep sense of cherishing, as though you are something precious and sacred that must be cared for and protected at all costs. Because of love, this person carries within them the pure desire to remain by your side forever, to stay bound to you without separation, without distance, without ever being torn apart. And this yearning is not simply about wanting closeness for the sake of romance. It runs far deeper than that. I am not saying that the wish to be inseparable is a shallow kind of love, but here, in this particular connection, their feeling surpasses the ordinary longing of just wanting to be near. What they hold for you is an emotion layered with immense tenderness, with respect, with the desire to uplift and honor you. They see you as priceless, irreplaceable, and they long to shield you from everything that might cause you pain, sadness, or heartbreak. This protective energy radiates very strongly from them, the instinct to shelter you, to guard your happiness, to ensure you never have to walk through sorrow alone. It is as if their love is not only about being with you, but also about becoming the guardian of your joy, the keeper of your light, the one who will never allow you to fall into despair. I sense that the love this person holds for you is so immense that they long to make it public, to declare it openly as if to say to the entire world, "This is the one I love. This is the one I treasure most." They want to speak it out with strength and certainty, to share it with those around them, to let it resonate beyond the boundaries of privacy. The feeling is so powerful it almost takes the form of a grand gesture, like if there were a massive electronic billboard hanging in the center of the city. They would want it to light up with words of their love for you, so that everyone could see it. Everyone could bear witness to it. This yearning to let the world know is so strong that it also becomes one of the reasons why they never want to cause you sadness or pain. For them, making sure you are never hurt is just as important as being able to stay by your side. You may think that simply having them with you, no matter how difficult the circumstances, no matter how heavy the disadvantages, is enough to endure. But for them, they do not want you to bear hardship or sorrow because of their selfishness, nor do they want to force situations in a way that would bring you pain. They wish to avoid reckless actions, to stay away from impulsive steps that might wound you, to protect you even if it means waiting, even if it means holding back their own desires. At present, the path forward between the two of you may still be unclear. Perhaps you cannot yet see exactly how the future will unfold, or perhaps there are walls, limitations, external factors that make being together challenging. It may be that you and this person cannot openly express your feelings, or that there are reasons preventing both of you from saying everything your hearts are carrying. At times, it can feel as though there is an unspoken law, an invisible rule hanging in the air, one that says these emotions cannot be spoken aloud, that this bond must remain veiled, concealed, as though it is something sacred yet forbidden to show. And yet, beneath all of that, their love burns steadily, their devotion never wavering, held close within their heart with an intensity that longs one day to be seen in its entirety. And in those moments when the road ahead is still uncertain, when everything remains surrounded by taboos, prohibitions, or binding obligations, you might feel that as long as the two of you truly love each other, as long as the emotional bond is strong and unshakable, then that alone should be enough, regardless of what the outside world may say. But for them, everything is far more complicated. They continue to think about the consequences, about how, if this love were to be revealed, it could bring harm to others around them or put their position, their reputation, their circumstances into a state of danger and instability. And so, even though the desire to be by your side burns fiercely within them, they are still weighing carefully, making sure that no reckless decision, no rush step will end up costing them what is most important, and above all, ensuring that you are not dragged into unnecessary pain or harm. When faced with the possibility that everything could collapse, you may believe wholeheartedly that no matter how severe the suffering, no matter how unbearable the difficulties, as long as the two of you are together, you could overcome it all. From your perspective, that faith may be unwavering and powerful. But in reality, until that situation truly comes to pass, no one can say for certain what the outcome would be. If, out of longing to be together, the relationship is forced forward too strongly, pushed too quickly, then it could very well destabilize their standing, their dignity, their sense of security. In that moment, the shared life that you both dream of building could become fragile, difficult to sustain, perhaps even fall apart entirely. And should that scenario unfold, they would be left with a deep and haunting feeling that they had failed to make you happy, that their pride and sense of worth had been broken, and you, too, would be left carrying grief and pain that should never have been yours to bear. This will inevitably turn into a tangible, practical problem, one that prevents the two of you from continuing in a state of peace and lasting stability. Because love is never just about being together and nothing more. There are situations where, even if two people remain side by side, if the balance, the confidence, and the joy are lost, the relationship will gradually grow heavy, pressing down on both hearts until it leaves you both exhausted and drained. At this moment, you may feel that as long as you can be together, no matter how poor, no matter how lacking in comfort, that alone is worth it. But try to imagine further ahead. If, in the process of being with you, they begin to lose faith in themselves, if they start to shrink inward, to carry the weight of insecurity and the haunting belief that they are no longer of value, would you still feel happiness in such a situation? Would you still feel at peace standing beside someone who can no longer see their own worth? It is very possible that, in that moment, you might realize with a heavy heart that if only you had waited a little longer, prepared yourselves more fully, and avoided falling into such circumstances, things could have been so much better, so much lighter, so much more sustainable. Human beings often fall into the pattern of always looking toward another peak, believing that what lies on the other side is brighter, but this person, your person, is not caught in that habit. Instead, they are thinking very far and very deeply about this matter. They are not only considering the present moment, they are weighing the long term, looking carefully into the future, wanting to avoid tragic endings that could bring sorrow to you both. And all of these thoughts, every single hesitation and calculation, springs not from fear alone, but from the profound desire to protect you, to safeguard your happiness for the long run. They understand with clarity that rushing into having you right now does not equate to ensuring lasting happiness for both of you. And it is precisely because they treasure you, because they value you so highly, that they see this truth clearly and choose the path of patience, even while their own heart aches with the longing to be near you. Therefore, I truly hope that you will embrace and receive this profound love in its entirety. Do not look only at the surface, believing that being together immediately is all that matters, while forgetting that true, lasting happiness requires a stronger, steadier foundation than that. This person has already placed you, and continues to place you, in a position of great importance, seeing you as a priceless gift that life has given them, something sacred and irreplaceable. And with that, I will bring this reading for those of you who chose pile 3 to a close. If your heart has felt soothed, comforted, or awakened in any way by the messages within today's spread, then feel free to leave a greeting, a simple emoji, or any message you wish to share. For me, each response you leave is like a living heartbeat, a sign that the invisible threads between us are indeed alive and real, weaving us together in this space of connection. Thank you for listening with your whole heart. I look forward to meeting you again in the readings yet to come.